stream, but we're ready to go. Oh, you know what? I'm going to get some water. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, sorry about that. I really hate giving... So the problem is, as much as I do it, I actually really don't like getting up during casts. I know I do it a lot because there are little things like, taking bathroom breaks, getting up and stretching. All of these things I think are particularly important because I suspect some of you may have lives similar to mine. So back when I worked in movies, it was a constantly active job, and I've never been like a big guy. I've always been very skinny. But like with that in mind, during film, I definitely was a bit thicker because I was just lifting, especially on film shoots where, it's 1,000-foot mag and you're loading it up and carrying more than one, that you're doing that for a day, which probably, some game developers will relate to. Like I can definitely remember working, 16, 20-hour days on certain shoots. That adds up. But that's increasingly in the past, and, going through school and now working at the job that I do, my day sometimes becomes a matter of sort of sitting in front of a succession of monitors. I try and do things like walk everywhere where I go, and I take the stairs at work, and I'm on the 18th floor of my building, so it's that is a non-trivial exercise, it turns out. But overall, all of this is to say that, especially if I go up and get something, and whenever it comes to water or whether it comes up to just taking a stretch, especially because my stuff tends to go for a very long time. If you happen to be somebody, and there are a few of you who watch everything all the way through, I would encourage you to take a minute and get up and stretch and take care of yourself as well. But we've got some wonderful people already right in the chat, so let me say hello to you all. We've got Galva, Tallman Alive, Duxel. Man, this is really surprising to have so many people climbing in all at once. My apologies to Wuntfor, who was here during the Elder Scrolls. I was late in uploading it to Twitch, and Twitch's processing service is much slower than YouTube's, so I think the thing went live at about 10 o'clock, and it was a pretty short video anyway, so there really wasn't a lot of take up on it. But if you want to watch it, it is now available in the VODs both on Twitch and on YouTube. But I'm going to try and be a little more regular with that, because I've really sort of fallen out of the habit on the Elder Scrolls, and I want to get back to that because I really am enjoying Daggerfall. I don't know if some of you went and saw this, but Lottie and Alexis were on extra credits today. They were sort of talking with the streamer who was covering it. I missed the name, unfortunately. I feel rather bad about that, but that should be on their page. And as always, they're very engaging. I was sort of my normal self inside of chat, which is to be not very helpful at all and a bit of a pain, to be completely honest. But there you have it. It's actually a habit that I think I've cultivated in a couple of other streams, and that's now turned into my regular behavior. So, hey, we've got Johnny Big Time here. Johnny, actually, so I want to take a quick minute and say here, Cultist Simulator is virtually the opposite of the kind of game that he would like. Like, Cultist Simulator is designed, as they're fond of saying, it's a Marmite game, which means that, and this is consistent with the development process, it usually means that Alexis makes too much of it. But of course, it also means that a solid subset of the population rather enjoys it. So no, but like it's definitely a game which is intended to be a very specific experience that is going to appeal to a very specific type of player. And as they point out, this reflects in sort of the returns that the game sometimes gets, as well as, say, the fact that the game was actually very popular on release. It hit #1 on Steam, to my recollection, and it got hit with a bunch of negative reviews because it's something that is quite, if you're used to seeing like Total War, which was another sort of top-selling game in the month that it came out, if you're used to seeing that in the top spot, you sort of have, it's like a Hollywood blockbuster. Some of these things are incredible, and some of these are not very good, or at the very least, not your sort of thing, but there's like a floor to the quality level. And once you go to the independent space, it's not even just a question in terms of whether or not they're good or bad, because some of them are incredible, some of them are absolute garbage, but then there are other things that are in categories that, just they're beyond your understanding of maybe what that experience should be. It's actually rather appropriate I do this with Johnny, because like a good example of this would be I rather enjoyed the movie The Fountain, and I really like the movie Casablanca. And Johnny does not like either of these movies. But he does like Network, or at least I think you liked Network. It seemed like you liked Network. So even then, it's not just a question of like, Johnny's some Philistine who doesn't appreciate it or something like that. So all of this is to say that obviously it means a lot to have people who come in regularly, and I know a lot of you come in for Cultist and that, but I particularly wanted to shout out Johnny, not just because he's one of my favorite broadcasters, but the level of his support that he shows, even when I'm playing a game which I really don't know if it is his kind of thing, even in terms of watching. He has been very consistent in doing that, and I hope at the very least, I backed a game. This is gonna be a little bit of a longer intro, just because I've been decompressing. Some of you have seen there's some details about GOG, and effectively they've said that they don't want to pay me for all but 1 year, and it's my lowest earning year of being in their affiliate program, and I'm going to do a big blog post about it. It's looking more or less like they have locked in on that decision. I'm going to give them one more very clear statement that they are currently in breach of the terms of the agreement. I will quote the email in which an employee told me directly that I would be able to claim all years of revenues. They definitely don't dispute that I made that money. The only thing that they dispute is whether or not they need to give it to me in terms of cash. But that has really taken a lot of energy out of me. It's why I've been, not 100% on some of my streams lately, because that's been sort of taking up a lot of my energy, and I'm going to try and not let that become part of the stream here. But part of this, because I wanted to get the stream started. My intro will be a little bit longer because there are some things that have happened which are actually very good ones and I want to share with you. And it gives me a chance to decompress a little bit, getting a chance to unburden my sorrows to you is a nice thing. But in terms of the details of the misery and all of that, I'll save that for a blog, so that way you can opt out if you don't want to hear the negativity. And you can opt in if you want to know what's going on, because it's very unfair, and it's not a lot to be done about it, unfortunately. So there's a game on Kickstarter that's really interesting to me, and I will sing Johnny's praises in a little more detail, but I did want to let you all know about something that I kickstarted today, helped kickstart. And it is a game called Under Stranger Stars. Let me find it here. I believe, not that these distinctions matter, but I was very happy with it. I may be the first backer on this project. There's currently 23. They've raised 1,283 Canadian of their 27.89 Canadian goal, or alternatively 1,421.42 of a 30,000 goal. I believe it is a project they love on Kickstarter, so good news there. There is a demo for the game. I will actually download it and I might stream it. But this seemed sort of appealing to me on its own, and I actually noticed a lot of developers who I respect immensely are following these guys on Twitter, and I've tended to find, just like any other recommendation, obviously the people that you... So here's the thing, like, following someone on Twitter does not necessarily mean you agree with them or you endorse them. I think follow policing is really dumb. There have definitely been times where I'm like, I wonder why they're following that person. And I'm like, I immediately try to dismiss that thought as quickly as I can. Because I have absolutely no business telling people who they should and shouldn't follow. And I can definitely tell you that there are people who I follow on Twitter who I don't agree with. I don't actively seek out people who I consistently disagree with, but there are definitely some accounts that I want to see the regular, or I want to see some stuff from for one reason or another. So, anyways, these guys seem to be followed by some interesting people. And this game, I said this on Twitter, which was, I don't know how apparent this is on some of my other streams and in the types of games that I play, but I actually really like silly stuff or like, oh, Galva, we were talking about this. This is Endless Sky is the spiritual successor to Escape Velocity. I will check that out after this stream. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit before. But yeah, so I don't know how apparent it is from some of the streaming. I know it comes through on a few games more than another, but I really like silly and funny things. Like, Doctor Strangelove is a perfect movie for me because it's by Stanley Kubrick, who's like easily the greatest filmmaker who's ever lived. It's a very funny movie. Peter Sellers does a wonderful job out of it. It's a very serious movie. You cannot get a more serious subject than Doctor Strangelove, really. But it does so in this really great and funny way. And, just some of it, especially like the George C. Scott character, just, it's physical comedy in some cases, and it's all great. It's silly. It's wonderful. And I mean, again, I like it because it's smart as well. But I really do like stuff that either makes me grin or smirk or laugh. I do actually have a very silly side, and I'm never quite sure how apparent that is from streaming, because sometimes I don't do any of that at all. And some people have commented on other things where they're like, I really prefer it when you don't do the jokes. And it's hard because I actually find that a thing that's it's hard to suppress sometimes. So one of the main reasons why I was attracted to Under Stranger Stars, I actually backed it without playing the demo, and it's because their tagline is a game about space inspired by Sunless Sea, Futurama, and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Twin-stick action, bite-sized stories. And there definitely just sort of seems to be an attitude to this game that it does not really take itself very seriously. It looks like a genuine game. It looks quite exciting to play, and it has a few elements, and obviously that pedigree that they mentioned there is pretty, pretty impressive. But I just, I think the thing is that humor is sometimes hard to do. I've seen that music video, Galva. There's also a war room that's set up in Wolfenstein: The New Order, which I don't know how many people picked up on that one. Holy crap, there's a lot of people in the channel right now. Did I get hosted by somebody? Oh, Octavian Zero, thank you very much for that. Host, let me take a quick minute here. Okay, well, I'm pretty much at the end of my little prologue, so I'll talk about the people hosting. I will say who gets credit for Cultist Simulator, and then we can jump into the game. So for those of you who are here from some of the big hosts that I've gotten, fear not, we will be getting onto gameplay for a little bit, but I need a minute to decompress anyways. But yeah, we've got, I think the biggest thing is that humor is sometimes hard to do. I think there's some funny writing in Cultist Simulator, but it's not a comedy game. There's actually also some great, like even just individual lines in Sunless Sea, like there is rather a lot of this, makes me laugh. And I do like silly stuff quite a bit. I loved the trailer for Crush Your Enemies, for instance. I thought that was a really good one. Or The Stanley Parable is another good example of this. But I really feel like we have a tendency to take ourselves a little too seriously in some of the games that we play. And I like it when games are confident enough in themselves to go for a silly or non-serious route. I don't think, like, it's not that we're starved for it, but I feel like there is less of it than people want. Definitely less than what I want. And so that one I sort of backed sight unseen. One, because there's sort of this validation from people that I follow, but also because it really seems to be a type of project that I would like to see more of. And so because there's a demo, I encourage you, please do check out that Kickstarter. Again, it's called Under Stranger Stars. I'll try and remember to put the URL in the description when I export to YouTube, but kickstarter.com/project/ avianling/under-stranger-stars, and I will copy and paste that into chat again. Oh, there's a token there, so I don't know who's going to get the credit for referral. Or alternatively, just go to Kickstarter and do Kickstarter and do the reference. And the distinguished gentleman, long time no see. It's great to see you again. I hope you're doing well. And Gundam Tanka, good evening to you as well. So let me get through the people who are hosting me right now. I said I was going to do that. We will say who is responsible for the game, and we will jump into it. So we've got Octavian Zero, the Sleepbringer. Oh, let me try that again. Octavian Zero, the Sleepbringer, Maka Angzir, Ulster Fighter, Sir Tristan Live, Kaylee Cakes, Inferno Fowler, Yorkshire Bastard, Mr. Franz, Nubasaur 42, Flofi, and Unknown Brigade. And then obviously in terms of streamers that we know, Johnny Big Time is present, and I hope you're all well. You know, distinguished gentlemen, it's been a while. I don't remember the last time we left your studies. I know it was a little rocky for a while, and you sort of seemed to get through it. How have things been with you? Is university treating you well? Have you finished university? I guess that's a little early to say that, but. All right, responsibilities, design, writing, and coding, Alexis Kennedy. Production, marketing, biz, Lottie Bevan. UI design and coding, Martin Nerukar. You can follow these three people. Actually, you can follow all these people on Twitter. At Factory Weather for Weather Factory itself. At Alexis Kennedy for Alexis. At Tron Bevan for Lottie. At Nerukar. He actually put out a couple of tweets about a new sort of daily challenge he's adding to his game Nowhere Profit. Looks pretty good. We've got art by Catherine Unger, Clockwork Cuckoo, Lottie Bevan and Sarah Gordon, Marybeth Solomon, Brent Barkman, Mickey Irby for Mickey Mar Productions Limited, and the soundtrack is now available for about $12 Canadian or your regional equivalent. Well, sorry, $12 or $11 Canadian or your regional equivalent. Audio by Soundcuts. Additional writing by Lottie Bevan, who actually she was talking a bit about some of the romances that she needed to write on the extra credit stream today, which I found rather amusing. She apparently had to write romances with people that she already knew, which is amusing. Additional coding by Fraser McCormick, Chris Payne, Mark Gagne, Lara Sider, who isn't in the chat in the extra credits, and was actually really nice to talk to in the Steam stream, which is on YouTube if you were wondering. And I should mention, I always keep saying that he's responsible for the fansys, and he may be, but the site that I have been meaning to refer to is the Frangiclave, not the fansys, the Frangiclave. It's the one that has all of the cards inside of it. So if you were wondering about that, I've been misattributing his work, or if that's a site that he's running as well, the one I've been meaning to refer to, I've been mislabeling like forever. And then additional design by Caroline Porter, Sonia and PK, special thanks. Matt Hosty, who I was finally able to identify, it is in fact a classics prof at Oxford. I also have a friend who is a classics prof. Well, used to be. It wasn't a prof at Oxford. He did classics in Oxford, came to UBC. Super sharp guy. I kind of wanted to have him on the stream to talk about ancient Greek stuff. He got me in touch with the two other people. You can actually still see those old interviews. There's some of the first streams that I ever did. But he was the one, his name's Michael Griffin. He was responsible for getting me in touch with the two experts that we did those interviews with. One with Shabon McElduff about Roman Spectacle. And then there was the one, wait, why am I drawing a blank on his name? It was originally supposed to be, it wound up being more about games rather than classics. I feel really terrible that I've forgotten his name. It'll be down below, but you can check those out in the VODs. But anyways, I believe he's a classics professor at Oxford. Haley Urias, who's just coming off of what I think is a fairly big marketing coup with the release of Sunless Skies. And of course, literally everybody who has ever sent feedback or a bug report. Thank you, and thank you for paying attention to me in this 20-minute opening. That was maybe a little indulgent on my part, but where were we? You're not at uni. You dropped out a few years ago. I'm sorry, distinguished gentlemen. I probably shouldn't have brought it up then. You work at a local cafe at the moment. That's cool. I actually remember. I remember when I was doing the transition. There's 2 transitions that I did. One was out of school and breaking into film, and the other. So. One was breaking into film, and the other was getting out of film and trying to find sort of a new place for myself. And one of them did involve working in a cafe. And the funny thing about it is, while I wouldn't label it as like my favorite or the best job that I've ever worked at, one thing that I really did get out of it was I met some. So for the people that I met, like there's some of the people who I have had the longest friendships with. I met some people at, for instance, on working holiday visas, who are from Japan because I was in Vancouver at the time, and I don't know. It's interesting. I had actually somewhat rather fond memories of the people. Maybe not so much the job itself, but I hope it's treating you well. You're the best you've ever been at that moment. That's great. Okay, then I get to feel even better about that. Oh yes, I forgot. Okay, so we've got a rival who is trying to gobble up the Van der Schaaf collection. We've got a trap for them. I need to do my affliction. We've got the Hint, who's currently looking into the actions of the Long. And we don't know what the plan is, so... Okay. So Connie Lee is going to become a bit of a problem. We're kind of churning through these expeditions as quickly as we can, but it seems like if the rival is now going to be gobbling up these locations, I need to beat feet. Once my dreaming becomes available, I'll deal with the affliction. Once study becomes available, I will read Apollo and Marsyas. And I don't know, I think in this case we're just doing a bunch of recruiting, so I'll probably just bring as many bodies in as I can, because I think the idea here was to try and do a massive recruitment drive to bring in folks. So anyways, we'll hit on pause and see where this all goes. By the way, are there any, seeing as there's a fairly big host here, or maybe you all just really want to see Cultist Simulator, that would be even better. Oh, actually, there's a couple things I should mention about getting this game if you are interested in doing so. Is there anybody here who's unfamiliar with Cultist Simulator and wants to know what's going on? Eldridge has almost learned not to pick his teeth with his knife in conversation. He has not yet learned to leave his knife in his boot. Okay, where is my... Okay. I think we're just gonna upgrade him right away. So for those of you who don't own Cultist Simulator and become interested in it, I mean, you can buy it on its own, but if you are a person who uses Humble Monthly, it is actually one of the early unlock games. So if you are, if that's a program that you participate in and you're interested in, you may want to pay early. I obviously really like the idea of Weather Factory making every dollar that they can off of this. So in that sense, in that sense, I'm sort of like, no, you should just go and buy it full freight. But if the Humble Monthly is something that you're interested in, it is currently available as one of the early unlocks. Shadow6442. Thank you thank you for stopping by. I hope you're doing well. And Lumpy Space, I didn't see your host a little bit earlier. It didn't seem to get it didn't seem that it was because it was a raid, not a host. What were you playing tonight? And welcome everybody from Lumpy's channel. Shadow, did you come along on that? For those of you who don't know, Lumpy Space is I'm going to say fighting game streamer because he's been doing some Mortal Kombat recently, but I also know him from Johnny Big Time's channel, so I think he's a little bit more of a variety streamer. Oof, we just barely made it. I prepared the snare. I can try to set an ambush for my rival to defeat their expedition or even injure them. Okay, so with luck that will work. You and Gundam Tanka 1 have no idea what's going on. Oh, that's right. You've got Gundam as your comrade in arms. All right. So if memory serves, you are still located in the United Kingdom. This is actually by a British studio called Weather Factory. They are located in London. And this game is probably best described as a card game where you play the villain in an H.P. Lovecraft story. And so essentially the way that the game is set up is your life is sort of broken down into all these different cards and also these actions that you can take. So for instance, if you think about, how do you define yourself? Well, I am my body, this is my body, there are other bodies, but this one is mine. My mind needs it like a fungus needs soil. I could be my cognitive ability. No live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Shirley Jackson. I may be my creativity. Dull minds are neither intuitive nor mathematical. Blaise Pascal. But some other things that I might be, some people define themselves through their wealth, enough to support me for a little while in adequate comfort. My knowledge is part of myself, and in this case, these are insights to sort of this world just beneath the skin of our own, and these have sort of different aspects and different sort of different truths that they're revealing. I might define myself as my associates, people who I consider acquaintances or maybe something deeper. And then I could also be defined through my reputation, like my notoriety, or my enemies, in this case, Connie Lee, the heiress, suffragist, and adventurer. She's recently put her chaotic enthusiasms to considerable wealth at the service of the Suppression Bureau. It definitely is a game that maps life very well. And then, of course, some might consider themselves their job. At this point, I have difficulty at work, a risk of demotion. Considerable latitude is allowed for someone in my position, but my absence has been noted. I will have to charm the Elder Glover. Now, interestingly enough, this doesn't have a timer, so I can stay away from the job as long as I can. But essentially in this case, you've broken down your, this individual's life into all of these different components, but then there's actions that you can take on them. So this is the work verb, this is the talk verb, this is the study, this is the this is the explore verb, and this is the dream verb. And what you wind up doing is you wind up combining all of these different items together in these verbs to take certain actions. Now, the game does not hold your hand. What we're doing right now is one of the Apostle Legacies, which was added in the most recent update. And essentially what we're playing right now is a follower of one of the previous characters who sort of reached a higher level in this world, kind of just behind the scenes. And what we're doing is we're essentially trying to help them ascend even further. Roland, our delight, our fountain, our joy, who rests in exile until the greatest of feasts, the vitulation. So one of the things that's so interesting about this game is that there's no founding cults for dummies book. There is no understanding the secrets, behind the world. There is no understand histories that are not our own manuals. The confusion that you feel as a player reflects the confusion that your individual character has, and sometimes it's a matter of exploration. The game does have a little bit of an on-ramp. The square brackets do indicate sort of what certain things do, but a lot of this game is sort of left up to the player to figure out, and I am very much in that boat right now. We've been saving up a bunch of resources to go on expeditions, but I've wound up last playthrough, a lot of stuff really sort of unraveled for me very quickly, and so I'm ultimately going to have to deal with them one way or another. But that's just it. It's a very fun game to play. It's a little bit like an idle game, in the sense that, you always have these timers going by, and but you're absolutely right to say that this game looks like a game of life, because in the end, this game is all about, having limited resources, and time, of course, is the most precious resource that any of us have. And this tension that you will feel between trying to realize that thing inside you, that thing that you're either meant to do or that gives you great joy or great passion, and whether that's a painting, a game, a book, a theorem, there's lots of different ways that you can sort of represent that. But it's the fact that the world is not always very friendly to people like that. You don't always necessarily wind up with the best circumstances, the ones that are conducive to creating your best work. And so ultimately the game is the tension between that. And it's why I still don't feel all that bad comparing it to The Sims, because I honestly think that is the best. I think that is the best comparison that can be made for the game. I really do feel that this game sort of touches on that same sort of tension that The Sims does. So you're almost sure that there's a YouTube series out there that promotes how to start a cult on a channel. Are you talking about mine? But yeah, I got to play this back when it was in sort of an early alpha. Not the very first version. The very first version was done in, I think, like JavaScript or something like that. And it was definitely... Oop, this is going to be a problem. I think I have a couple of ideas of how to work with this, but the wolf despair prowls elsewhere. No dread empowers this despair. It's over for now. So, what was I going to say? The sun still moves, the wind walks. My journals are the labyrinth clue. Okay, so let's just take a minute here and heal up from my sickness. And at some point I'm going to need to figure out what to do with the attention that Connie's giving me. I think probably what I'll do is I'll try and time the painting to take advantage of the mystique and the notoriety. But yeah, I mean, I got an early look. I know there is someone who took great umbrage at this claim being made, but I really do think this is the case. I believe I was the first person to stream the game, and it was in its very early form. And it's funny because I know Alexis tweeted in reply to that stream and said, there's really not that much there. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. But I think the thing was, it was really apparent how well the game scaled. And that's why I wanted to stream that game, because it was one that was so interesting to me. It wasn't the first time, actually, the reason why, I'm pretty sure the reason why I found Cultist Simulator was, I think Alexis tweeted something to me when I found the Horizon signal for the first time in Stellaris. As far as I can tell, that was first contact. I'd obviously heard of Sunless Sea, but he wasn't a name so much as it's this is a guy who's got a reputation for writing good games. I definitely did not engage with developers to the level that I am now, largely as a result of how pleasant it has been to interact, not just with, the individual developers, particularly Weather Factory, Lottie and Alexis, but even the community. It's been a level of engagement, and there's other games too. Like Brigador was another good example of that. It's not the first time, but like this was definitely, this game in particular marks a really big turning point in the way that I have engaged with games as a streamer, and it's been really wonderful. And largely a matter of luck. I mean, obviously, kudos to Mr. Kennedy for having a good Twitter game so that I paid attention to him. But it's this has been a really special game for reasons that are entirely separate from the game itself. It just happens that this is also a game that really speaks to me in terms of its themes and its ideas. So Galvis says, you forgot to mention last time you were doing a bit of playthrough, you're doing some painting in Cultist Simulator. You started watching that Velvet Buzzsaw that just came out on Netflix. It's a bit too high and your brain almost melted. Yeah, I don't have Netflix, so I haven't seen it. So Cultist Simulator is the closest thing to a real cult leader, Fethullah Gulen. That's great. All right, I'm going to read the whole thing of the Lord Franklin Bancroft Diaries, because if we want to talk about things that make me smile, the Bancroft Diaries too. And of course, it gives you lantern lore, so it really is one of the best books. Bancroft seems to have been a talented adept, but devoted his energies to frustratingly whimsical projects, arranging grape-fetching races between Mansis spirits, teaching percussagants to juggle, and conjuring storms of imaginary blossoms for the Rose Witch, Ayrshire, who resolutely refused ever to couple with him. Bancroft spends 20 pages bemoaning this last. And now that we've read the lore, the mantra here recorded is a high and exacting magic, which can be used to pledge one's spirit to the Watchman, beginning an ascent to the house. Bancroft boasts of his ability to recite when in his cups. He also has it set to music for a performance with fireworks at the Vauxhall Gardens. At Vauxhall Gardens. And we got the unmerciful mantra. Mercy, saith the Watchman, is found only in shadow, a level 6 lantern lore. So I only have one more book to read right now, which is Apollo and Marsyas. We'll do that right now. In the original myth, Marsyas lost a musical contest and was flayed by Apollo, who later regretted it. In this version, Marsyas' skin has a further history. I forgot, I should probably read these before. So this is a libretto of a lost opera concerning the contest between Apollo and Marsyas and its tragic outcome. The libretto is identified only by their initials, RKNJL. Okay. Not all the Forge's children are bright. Its offcuts and its bastards gather in the bounds like a hammer scale in the cracks of a smithy floor. Here comes one now. So we've got the Callagine. At the corners of the forge, at the bounds of the Mansis, the glory's fire meets baser elements. Here is a cunning vapor to infect your enemy's dreams. So I'm gonna just save this for a little bit. I'm gonna toss them in the. Into the expedition. The main reason for that is it's very likely that Connie is going to find some notoriety to gobble up. We'll collect these. Oh, looks like it didn't remember the location. Oh, that's right, probably because we're between matches. But this looks like interesting. So it made... I thought this was only in the Gate of Hornbranch. I wonder if this is unintentionally here. So for those of you that don't know, the game added they're experimenting with this new drop area. So in this case, this is directing where the cards should go. I kind of remember, I liked it when they would go back to their old locations, but we'll give this one a try. I thought this was only going to be available to, to people who, I should probably put Victor on this. Wait a minute. Yeah, Victor's a disciple. Yeah, I didn't think that I was going to have access to this, so we'll give it a shot. You like the movie? Okay. It has Jake Gyllenhaal and John Malkovich. It has some haunted artwork. A quick Google search seems to indicate some disapproving reviews of it. It's all a matter of taste, really. I definitely have some movies that I know most people don't like, but I think are very good ones. So it's the way these things work. Okay, I think I'm gonna put... I really should keep one other one, because the notoriety is gonna spawn really quick, but I don't really learn I don't learn my lessons, so I wonder who we can paint. Let's paint the Glimmering, why not? In pain we are born, in hunger we are embraced, in daylight we are devoured. These are the gates of the body, and this is her promise. Not all that is born decays. In remembrance of this promise, we give ourselves to the feast. So presumably if I do collect all... Okay, so it doesn't show up in this... That's particularly interesting. Okay, so I'm just going to set this off to a spot where it hopefully won't be in the way. And I will manually do my my adjustments. Although I suppose I don't need to worry too much about that. So, almost sure it's like an entire community that just tries to dump on anything that Yeah, I mean, I can sort of see why. Like, if you have a problem with the model for Netflix, but I don't know. It's like they're definitely letting certain shows that wouldn't normally have been realized, you know, come about, and I always think that's a good thing. Let's add Velsine. This one is ready. So Velsine has operated her establishment for almost 20 years. She has never employed an assistant. Her hands are terribly strong. And we will bring her into the Order of the Bloody Cup. Colors of the night, I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. So I'll just spend the regular money for now. Something's happening. Our snare has succeeded. My rival has fallen into our trap. They'll likely retreat to lick their wounds. Ooh, exciting. My rival has met with a misfortune. They have been scarred by their defeat. They will be angry with me. 3 scars of the same type will kill any mortal. Okay. I wonder if there's a way I can recruit Douglas. So, rival ascension opportunities to ascend the House of the Sun are rare. If another achieves it, I may miss my chance. If this reaches 7, your rival may win the game instead of you. Mortal, grim, resentment, too many grievances can compromise loyalty. Half-healed fistula. Okay, Douglas isn't having any more of it. Time to see what all the fuss is about. Okay, so we'll find out what Douglas is up to before long. And now I need to start fearing the season of ambitions, I think. Okay, so notoriety is going to pop out in a minute. Okay, we're still good. They will not forget the savor I have given them. So Velsine, a believer. Velsine's ingenuities are endless, and her grip is stronger than a blacksmith's. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take the Order of the Bloody Cup. Okay. Recruit an independent. No, this one has not forgotten what occurred between us. Perhaps someday, if I do them no further harm, their feelings might change. Definitely gonna have to think of a way to try and turn this guy. I'm also going to have to think about how to get some more snares made, but in this case I think raising up my forged disciples will probably be the best way of handling that. So, Jock, you could just chill to your voice. Oh, I really appreciate that, Shadow. I mean, this is one of the things that's nice because the games that I play aren't always for everyone. But one of the things that's nice, I mean, it's weird to be complimented for my voice because I really didn't do anything to, well, okay, that's not entirely true. I actually used to have a speech impediment. But by and large, there's not a lot that I can claim credit for. Obviously, the majority of the qualities of my voice that people like tend to be things that I was born with. So it's sometimes a little unusual to receive that compliment, but it does really help me because I like talking about games and I like engaging with them. And sometimes I just like talking about what I'm doing. And it's cool that even if the game isn't 100% somebody's taste, that just sort of the rhythm or the sounds are sort of enough to go by. I really do feel there's a lot of people who like to either fall asleep to this channel or to sometimes just have it on as some pleasant background noise. So I thank you for that. My follower will kneel as a novice and rise as an initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. So this will turn her into a disciple. I'm still going to continue on with the recruitment drive, obviously, but... Okay, so I've got my health back. The sick room grows close and stale. Time to get up. And my recent work has accrued modest fame, so we've got some glimmering. I think that glimmering was from my past attempts. So in this case, I want to make sure that Mystique populates the... This is actually a tricky one. So we've got old, unhappy, far-off things. Moth finds light in the dark, and so do I. So I need to think a little bit about how I'm going to handle Connie. So in one sense, I kind of want the notoriety to tick down. But obviously, if I keep... So I can't just paint my way out of it forever.
I would never want to belong.
Thank you very much for that follow.
Would have someone like me for a member.
So if I just keep painting, then these things are never going to turn down, and eventually all the mystique is going to get gobbled up. And then if I leave these out, it's potentially going to... Yeah, there really isn't a good way out of this. This is level 6, so I can't work on that. You know what? I actually got the Callagine for a reason, so... in this case, Secret Devotions. The minister's bedchamber is grand in proportion, but sparsely furnished. Beneath the window, a feathered ornamental axe rests beside an enamel chalice drum on a little altar of yew wood. Okay, let's figure out where we want to go in the Mansis. So I don't have anybody to sacrifice to the spider door. So in this case, let's go back through the stag door. I think that takes reason. In my dreams, I know the path to the stag door through the maze of the bounds. Gearby will let me pass, but the path is always a puzzle. I will need reason. Okay, so I can paint again if I really want to. The question is whether or not it's worth it. I really should be doing something with my work slot. I think I'll probably just get a commission. Okay, preparing for an action. Our mortal enemy is preparing their next action. We've already put as many people as we can inside, so... Okay, Secret Devotions. Beneath the altar, a box is secured with complicated triple knot. We find a trove of books, and more besides. A knife rank with old blood, a twist of cloth, a leathery remnant of something the minister must have surrendered at his ordination. Okay, here's how I think I'm actually going to handle this this notoriety. It's not an ideal solution, but it's going to give me a little wiggle room. I forgot I've got a superstar cast of summons right now. Anyway, so we've got Debellis Murorum. That'll require a bit of translation. We've got the Rose of Wanzai, marked with a tripled sign of the arcane contemplative order known as the Sisterhood of the Knot, but a fourth leaf has been added disfiguring the sign in Greek. Debellis Murorum is an 18th century epic poem by the pseudonymous Slipstos. Oh, I don't need to translate that. I always thought I needed to translate that from Latin. Kion at Abdos, a play dealing with the 9-year sojourn of a snow goddess in the Thracian city of Abydos by Apollo Fireweaver. It enjoyed success in London in its 1892 edition when it was republished from apparently an older Greek text. No problem at all, Shadow. I really do appreciate you hitting that follow. Obviously, Lumpy is a friend of the cast's here, so I say this a lot, but I really mean it. It is nice to encounter pleasant people through hosts and raids, and one of the reasons for that is, as a streamer, I appreciate both sides of that equation. And so when people come through and give a new stream a chance, and when they're so pleasant in the stream, it really reflects well on the caster. It is one of those nice free ways that you can sort of indirectly support one of your broadcasters just by behaving so well. So thank you for that. You haven't just done me a favor, you've done Lumpy a favor. I'm glad that you like this stuff, and I hope I get a chance to see you again. But if not, obviously, no hard feelings whatsoever. So, sorry, the Rose of Nuriel is marked with a triple sign of the arcane contemplative order known as the Sister of the Knot in Greek. I did read that. So, Apollo and Marsyas. The skin of Marsyas gives oracles and is later smuggled to Phrygia, where the priestess of Cybele uses it for drumhead. At the opera's climax, the pounding of the drum drives would-be violators of the priestesses to suicidal madness. The opera ends with a wistful hymn from the youngest priestess on the beauty of the mountain pines. And for that we gain another thunderous secret. And again, I'm doing the unhelpful thing where I want to have one of every lore. It means that I'm not able to sort of double some of these things up. But I won't be too strict about it. If I feel like I'm missing out on progress, I might try subverting some of those. So we want to barrel through as many of the expeditions as we can. So let's say for St. Agnes Hospital, they did good work here once. Certainly there were a few too many amputations, but there are individuals one would prefer not to walk the city streets. So let's say we want my Percussagent and my Maid in the Mirror at the top. We'll toss some funds in. I might want to consider switching out the... oops, I messed that up. I might want to switch out my one of my disciples for a hint next time I get a chance. But for now, Percussagents and Maid in the Mirror. We'll fire this up. And let's start by reading De Bellis Murorum. I think both of the two works that don't need to be translated are going to give me lore that I already have. So the poem elliptically describes a war between beasts, weather phenomena, and arcane concepts. It's quite specific about their tactics. So thank you for the retweets, by the way, Johnny Big Time and Eyes of Sin, who I don't know if you're in chat, but I hope you're feeling better if you are. Okay, work. Normally I would want to do commission at this point, but I'm hogging the talk verb. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to do some painting. And here's the way I figure this. The notoriety I want to preserve the most is the 93. So the idea here is that I'm very likely going to get a notoriety, but I might as well get the newest notoriety, and I will try and preserve the oldest, because these are going to be on the board for a shorter time than this one. Now, obviously, I'm just going to be doing piles of expeditions. I'm just going to be generating a lot of notoriety no matter what. But for the time being, this is how I'm going to try and handle my difficulties. Now, I messed this up because I could have also gotten rid of the old, unhappy, far-off things. So I'm curious what happens if I paint without inspiration. It might just spit this out, in which case that's good news, because I will be able to, I'll be able to incorporate that inspiration. I wasn't really thinking about that at the moment, so. Galvis says, you know better than to fall asleep with the stream open. You'd for sure get possessed by... Okay, so apparently I have no... I didn't use any inspiration. That's going to be a bit of a dilemma. You would get possessed for sure. Maybe that's not the worst thing in the world that could happen. You never know. Don't knock until you've tried it. Okay, so... sort of what we wanted. I'm going to put the hint in this slot. Oh, actually, let me just double check that. So we need heart or lantern to suppress this curse. So yeah, lantern is the right call here. This was mostly just to preserve the creatures, but we'll see how that goes. Hey, Johnny, you're still here. So I've been reading some good things about Apex Legends. I rather regret that you were not able to fully get into it. In pain we are born, in hunger we are embraced, in delight we are devoured. These are the gates of the body, and this is her promise. Not all that is born decays, and remember that a promise we give ourselves to the feast. Falsine is not a machine. We are reasonably confident of that, because she has been observed now and then to commit quite human errors. Alright. So again, we're going to continue. I think, against my better judgment, I am going to try and get the commission. So we'll talk with Dr. Adim for that. We'll see what happens to the painting. Competent work. There's nothing to be ashamed of here. And it looks like the season of ambitions have just come up, so that's going to cause all sorts of problems for us. Let's go to the Painted River. Cool. Forbidden Epic. The attention of the hours is drawn to the bloodiest wars. Afterwards, the histories are braided like hair. Exploring with a scrap of knowledge may uncover secret locations in the land beyond the forests across the continent. Okay, so we'll put that below the unresolved ambiguity. There is a great chamber in the Mansus, through which the Painted River flows. The vagabond, it is claimed, painted it from memory in the years before she left the house. Certainly, there are histories concealed in its design. I traced them with my hand last night, and there are fragments of aquamarine paint beneath my nails, flecks of gold leaf when I was done. Alright, so modest fame, so we did get some money for that, surprisingly. And I'm actually going to wind up doing the exact same thing. In this particular case, I'm going to paint. I'm going to use my the notoriety that I want to preserve. Now, in this particular case, I'm actually going to... So the question is, do I want to give up... Do I want to guarantee Connie to get the notoriety, or do I want to try and hold on to the mystique? I think I'm going to guarantee her that notoriety. The reason I'm doing this right now is just so I can remove my restlessness. So exotic cravings, what hungers drive us. I'm assuming at some point Douglas is going to get absorbed by the ambition, but let's just see here. Okay, so Dr. Adim would like a commission on Lantern. We can definitely do that. I'm going to keep the talk verb open for the 4 seconds just to see what happens. Okay, cool. So we have Delightful Blood. So apparently the Seas of Ambition didn't do what I thought it would do. In that case, we will turn in the commission to Count Jannings. Clearly the solution to this conundrum is a 24-hour stream so you can pass out during the stream and get down with the possession. I have done a 24-hour stream before. The 1-2 joined and the Horn distinguished. Consequently, blood. Let's read Kion and Abydos. An entity called Kion arrives in a blizzard and demands the city gates are barred. As Abydos falls under her spell, the dead return but do not speak. We carry enough heart aspect to quell the curse. Probably. So let's turn that from a probably. We're strong enough in heart to be almost entirely secure against the curse. And I think we'll go back through the stag door. It's not my favorite option right now, but again, unless I want to actually put unless I want to put some bodies in up against it, it's not gonna work. We're not quite ready to sacrifice Neville yet. We at least need to make him a member of the cult. I received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. Okay, well, there's more mystique. Silver Sphendrea. What are they doing? Oh my god! Let's just keep going on with our recruitment. Rhaenyra, you're up. Oh, the Rhaenyra has been found not guilty 3 times in 3 separate jurisdictions. She will likely never be found guilty of anything. Almost forgot to pay for the paints. So again, right now I'm kind of treading water in some of these other verbs. Okay, so that was sort of expected. What we're going to do is we're going to get the Callagine to... In retrospect, I shouldn't have tried to delay the production of the evidence, because obviously I'm only going to have this thing in the world for a certain period of time. But the reason we summoned this thing was to be able to deal with the evidence. Okay, Rhaenyra continues to pursue her appetites discreetly, though her ambitions have grown. So we'll do the same thing again, but this time we'll turn her into a disciple. Okay, my latest painting has reviewed well. It's a big old bundle of Mystique. So with any luck, this will decay in enough time. What I'm going to do is start fulfilling the commissions that I can. In this case, this will be to, what does he need? Level 2. Okay, so if I generate fascination, that'll be a problem. Ooh, an ambush. Our enemy has learnt that we're considering an expedition. If they can learn of our destination, they'll send allies to prepare an ambush. Well, it looks like they've learned the destination. So this is the penalty for me setting up so many expeditions and trying to save everything. That alternative is now closed to me. So if I want, I can try a subtle rupture and summon something with it. In this case, I'm going to risk the Ascent of Knives. I don't think I ever get secret histories from that, but the Painted River could give me fascination, so... The enemies are stream sniping me. Furious Air, I think we can work with that. Anger is implicit in every shape. 10th order influence, a gathering knot of power and peril. This can be used in some rates to summon minions. Okay, now the one drawback about this, normally it'd be cool if I could get, multiple influences to run around and all of that. You can actually upgrade these things. So for 8 years, the city is a place of slow death, frosty ecstasy, and silent beauty. But in the 9th year, a conspiracy of shouts is mounted against the quiet that Kion demands. The conspirators open the city gates, and the scarred man comes to drag Kion out by the hair. Summer returns, but the conspirators die of remorse. So we gain the White Ceremony for that. Now, you can try and upgrade an influence. The only real drawback here is that it does seem to need basically an influence of equal power. And the thing I haven't been able to work out, so there's kind of an outside way of doing this, but I've got so let's say I do my Ascent here, we'll throw some reason at the problem. I feel like I'm missing one, but... So okay, all well and good, we're going to do this. So 60 seconds here, that would not be enough time for the Furious Air on its own. It's okay, well, maybe we'll just paint with that. I'm okay, fair enough, painting will allow you to extend the life of an influence. But the real problem with that is that it's very unlikely that you are going to get it's very unlikely that you're going to get that same influence a second time, and especially if it's influence that you get in the Spider Door, I'm not entirely sure this system of upgrading influences actually results in that much influence being being upgraded. Now again, it's entirely the people who make this are very smart, and they have probably thought of every possibility that I can encounter. So what this is very likely me doing is me appreciating things from my own perspective of somebody who's still learning it. And of course, they're thinking more in terms of the overall picture for the game, in terms of how all these different systems interact with each other. There's actually, Alexis put out the clip that he always refers to from Blade Runner, where he's talking with, Batty's talking with Tyrell, and it's I want more life, you should do this. It's well, we can't do this. You were made this way. I'm well, then do this. It's well, you can't do that because it would make a virus and it would kill you. It's well, then do this instead. And it's we tried that and you on it with a virus again. Our enemy has paid locals to watch the place. So watchers have been added. That's a really interesting little addition. But yeah, so with that in mind, whenever I say this stuff, it should always be viewed in the lens. No, I mean, okay, so obviously I'm just head over heels for Cultist Simulator, and I think you all should go buy it. You should pay full price, and you should thank Weather Factory for it. The game's actually not that expensive, so by my standards, obviously everybody's circumstances are different. But I think one of the things that's so interesting for me, like I still wind up in these cases, I need to do something to preserve this creature. The Violet Chamber, what was this place? The door bore no sign, there were no windows. The walls were painted a rich violet, rich even now after the ravages of rain through the leaking ceiling. A rotting chair has leather straps on the arms. The floor is porcelain and runneled. So basically, all that I'm really saying with this is that in my own particular case, I don't wind up sort of doing the super influences because I've not been able to make that system work for me. There may be other ways of doing it, which I haven't learned yet, but at the moment I haven't quite been able to justify preserving the influence through painting. I don't think the payoff is worth it yet. So Rhaenyra commands admiration wherever she goes. She reserves her attentions for those who merit admiration in return. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to chat with the Callaghan. This is going to put my recruitment on hold, but we are getting pretty close to the end of it, so good news there. Yeah, I'll still have my Furious Heir to do my summoning. Okay. So we've got the brief discussion of Lantern, which we can give to Dr. Redeem when the chat becomes available. And in the meantime, let's do the right of the map's edge. So we'll throw our Furious Heir in there, and let's say that that's right. So I don't have a knock instrument, but I do have... We'll see if we can make something happen with this. I do have the Merovine Idol, so we can bring another percussagant in. I found a useful conjunction of aspects, but I need more power to call for this merry, ceaseless, merciless thing. I'll have to have significant intensity of heart and a little knock and edge. Okay. So I have a feeling that probably the knock level isn't right, so let's take the Sunset Rite instead. We'll do a Furious Heir. We will add the... Oh, we can't add that. So we'll add the heart, and Enid will give us our extra knock, and sure enough, that does it. So the percussagant, merciless and merry, heart will bring it, edge will constrain it. Trysts and interludes. If I have a particular friend, now is the time to renew our connection. So we've got the world as it is, and in from the night, our spy has returned to us. Some days are better than others. Sometimes the sky is nothing like a filthy sheet. Sometimes the river runs clear. Okay, so we have another season of Suspicion coming up right after this one is done, which is a bit of a shame, but we can live with this. I completely missed who was on the... it was a hint. Okay, so we've got a Trembling Air, which we can use for summoning, but again, I want to try and get what I can. So let's say we'll go to the Painted River. So this one would turn to Dread if it came down to it. Erudition Lesson Learned. I mean, it's not something that I'm really going to be able to work with. So. The Painted River runs from a great chamber, excuse me a second, from a great chamber near the White Door, far through the Mansis, to its far edge where it enters a painted delta of far cloud. I voyaged half its length last night with a stern-faced captain beneath a rust-red sail. As the clouds rose before us, the sailors raised a yearning shanty and close-hauled the sails to best use the painted wind. And all the while, the captain and I discoursed of the secrets of the House of the Sun. Okay, so let's digest what we've got already. So I'll take that Greek and we will translate the book again. Looks like we've got our loot. So there's a padlock cupboard in the wall. It does not long resist our strength. It contains instruments tipped in flint and glass, instruments that one would not expect a surgeon to use. It contains other matters of more interest to us too. So Dorothy's back in. We've got another notoriety, of course. That's no surprise there, and we're gonna have to get used to it.
I would never want to belong to any club.
We're on Thank you very much for the follow. I always throw too much money in these things. It's just kind of become a habit. We've got a percussagant and a hint made in the mirror. Okay, we've got the Rose of Hypatia marked with the tripled sign of the arcane contemplative order known as the Sisterhood of the Knot in Greek. We've got the Locksmith's Dream Trespasses, the third volume of Teresa Gelmer's examination of the parallels and the mystic dreams of artisans. We've got Stained Gloves. What uses have these known? What lessons might they teach my hands? And we've got Rose Pearl Dust. I think I'm eventually going to have to separate the pigments, but pearls are sacred to the witch and sister, especially those of this color. They have been used in protective rites, among others. So, for that... Okay, so I'm certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. Well, in this case, we'll just get the Callaghan to deal with that. That's why we summoned it. Now, of course, Miss Lee is going to be renewing the Season of Suspicion in about 48 seconds, so that's life. And what else? We'll wait for the hint to come back in from the cold. But as for the rest of it, let's go to the Forgotten Mithraeum. I think I'm going to save for the Maid in the Mirror and the hint again. That's just because the Pergussagant, I'm going to be getting a new one once the ritual is complete, so no worries there. I am convinced that the Mithraeum still holds secrets that its discoverers never found. It's unlikely to be dangerous, but the search will require funds. So, in this case, bringing the Maid in the Mirror is quite unnecessary. We're not going to run into anybody who wants to kill us. It's actually a good argument for me to go to Gladwin Lake first, just because the Long has poisoned it for us. In that case, the Maid in the Mirror will become pretty helpful. And then, for lack of a better option, I'll go back through the Stag Door. It's not the worst thing that I could do. It's just not. It would be nice if I could go through the Spider Door. Okay, so we'll throw the hint at it again. I mean, this is going to be a little difficult overall, just because I already have two people inside the action, so I'm not really going to be able to stop it if it comes down to it. But it's a way that I can preserve my hint. And it will be something that, I'll at least know what's coming. Unfortunately, this is going to decay into dread. There's nothing I can really do about that because I'm not going to be able to sell it. I may be able to find some other... Oh, you know what? I think I have a use for it. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I can send another follower. So we're going to have to worry about lantern or knock. We've got a little lantern. It won't be enough, but in this case, I'm going to keep my percussagant. Again, this is just a preservation measure here. Of course, in 13 seconds, I'm going to have to deal with another eventuality. So we'll take the Forlorn Blood and the Delightful Blood. This is just those of you who've been watching for a while will know that I'm rather bad at remembering to do certain important tasks, so this is just a nice little reminder for me. And first the thump, the rattle and cry of the ceremonies it attends in the wood. Now here it is, shouldering its way through the world's skin, like a clawed, ruthless uncle or a headless flapping bear. So, got the waking chat. Place. Everything must be prepared for the moment. And as is tradition, as is canon for the Pergussagant. Sorry. Sometimes we get a little too in the throes of Percussagants and the menu goes away. Percussagant, it loves the Sistrum's shiver, it loves the thrum of the tympanos, it recalls with fondness the flaying of Mercius, and so it will not stop dancing. Apologies to all of you who wanted to go to sleep to the stream. Okay, I can talk to Count Jannings, but I don't have the talk verb available. I can paint to try and limit some of the things that will be taken. I think that's the best call right now, so we will add the 36 notoriety, just because we know that will die. And as far as preserving it, I can't really paint with the blood. So I'll just take I'll take my contentment. It'll be just paint some happy little trees. Okay, no surprises there. Sickness has arrived. Now I think that's because of my delightful blood. And fascination's coming up next, so I'll be careful about that. My minion is returned. The evidence has been destroyed. I am a little safer. So the real question here is whether or not I want to try and preserve the Callagine long enough for the notoriety. You know what? I'm going to do this. This sucks because I really want to use this verb for other things. But I actually think I'm going to keep it around. I don't have an immediate way of bringing that thing back in, so... Okay, so it looks like it was Mystique that they took first. Fair enough. Let's try the Painted River again. Another Forbidden Epic. That's good. So I'm not gonna use it right away. But what this will allow me to do is I can double up the Forbidden Epic to get a new Unresolved Ambiguity. I might have. And we have translated the Rose of Nuriel, so we will now translate the Rose of Hypatia just to get it all done. I would have thought Hypatia is a lantern, but okay. So our senses are sharpened. We should find this hidden door, but let's make this a certainty. So Pope Clifton's going in. We'll almost certainly find this hidden door now. Oh, and I should probably be... Dream of the end. I consume the little vial of blood, lie back, and close my eyes. Tomorrow I will be stronger. Oh, but that's going to turn into fascination, and that's going to be bad for me in 40 seconds. Colors of the night. I am much recovered. More than that, I am sumptuous. The sclera of my eyes, the veins in my wrists are aswim with gorgeous serums. When the vitulation comes, I will be the centerpiece for a delight to prove their appetite, to enact the grail. Okay, so let's think a little bit about what we're going to do. I need to figure out a way of dealing with my fascination. I can paint it, but I don't know if that will... I really don't know if that's gonna get me what I need. The work will be done in 12 seconds, so we can at least hide it away. Oh, but I do have a fleeting reminiscence I just wasn't paying attention to, so let's take that. There was a vision swing wide, a little darkness will mellow my light, even dread has its uses. So in a minute that will be dealt with. And again, the main thing here is just going to be trying to burn through as many expeditions as I can, and as long as I'm able to manage the notoriety that emerges from it, or not even manage the notoriety, but keep the consequences of having notoriety at bay, we should be able to kind of get to a new equilibrium and see if we can find some other things to do with this long. So I've got a little contentment, a bunch of glimmering mystique. I think we'll dump it all into place and sort it out later as new contentment. So it looks like this thing is it's attracting some new cards. So we'll put it here where it's a little bit easier to access. And okay, so what was I worried about? I was worried about fascination. Fascination's currently being nullified here. So is there something else that I can do with work? Not at the moment because I'm not talking with Count Jannings. And I don't think I want to because I'm going to be getting notoriety in a little bit. So I'm tempted to just leave the... I mean, I don't think there's anything I can summon with a Lantern 2. It's a little hard to argue for any other... I mean, I suppose one thing I could try is, like, sacrificing the Percussagant. And what? I guess it would have to be, like, the Rite of the Watchman's Sorrow in that case. Nope, because then I have to give up. No, this is the only one that'll actually allow me to sacrifice a person. So, like, if I tried something like this, but if I wanted to summon, I would have to do knock. Oh, cool. We sacrifice the Percussagant to resummon it. We actually wouldn't need anything else. Well, that's handy. I wonder I wonder if I'm going to be able to do that with some of the other creatures. So you're trying to remember where you were within the past week where there was a conversation about claims about Bob Ross being an avid BDSM enthusiast. That kind of strikes me like there's a rumor which is completely untrue that Mr. Rogers was like this hardened like Vietnam he was in the Marines, hardened Vietnam vet with like 1 billion confirmed kill, like basically straight out of the Navy SEALs copy pasta, although the SEALs are obviously not Marines. And that was the reason he wore his sweater. That is not true at all. I believe he's a Presbyterian minister? But anyways, it's one of these things that you kind of desperately want to be true, but it so obviously is not. But I do not know what Bob Ross got up to in his time. Although I do know that his hair was because it was an inexpensive way. Like, you didn't need to keep getting haircuts with that. Apparently, that was originally the most affordable hair that he could get, and then of course when he became successful, it was part of his image, so he kept it. Oh, I don't know if he said there's anything wrong with it. I think it was just the observation. I mean, I think what comes out of stories like that is, you know, just this idea of the difference between the person we know and expect. So it's a little bit like finding out, you know, well, actually, no, so here's a good one, right? Like, a lot of people associate, you know, the Victorian era and Queen Victoria with just this extremely, you know, austere, prim and proper, like the most censorious period that you could imagine. But I mean, Victoria kept a diary. She's actually quite a writer, and thought of herself in that way. I believe it's one of the ways that Benjamin Disraeli was able to be somewhat successful politically, because he was able to appeal to her on that level. And, you know, a very passionate individual, like, you know, her feelings for, I mean, this, by the way, all this stuff is in Fallen London, the relationship between Victoria and Albert. And yeah, I mean, in this case, it's not the sort of thing that you expect with, you know, the sort of world that you'd see in like a Howard's End or something like that. So the story you're really curious about, if it's true, is the one about Gene Roddenberry. I don't think I have. I don't think I've heard the one about Gene Roddenberry. Well, we all know that Discord is the most reliable source of information. It's right above Wikipedia. All right, where were we? I really feel bad being idle with this work slot, but strategy with the notoriety is more or less working as intended. We'll still be generating a fresh one, but we'll basically have less than what I would normally have to worry about. So I think we're gonna wait this all out. We've translated our books, so we can get on with it. I really do need more knocks. So in this volume, notoriously Gallagher's prose begins to disintegrate, and it is not clear which dreams are in fact her own. Faint lines in stone, a surface yields to pressure. We found it. The hidden door moves with a grating shudder and a shower of dust. So it looks like they're not trying to do anything to me, so kind of good news. Let's heal up. And at this point, I think I do actually want to... I actually do need to generate money, so let's... I'm going to try and preserve the stuff for a longer time. There's really no point in me letting that sit idle. What about the Syrian plane crash? Okay, I'm going to open that in a new tab and look at it later. A lovely space, musty with the memory of blood. We have found the hidden door at the highest grades of initiate used. this is where he got his idea. He was a pilot before. Okay, they crash landed to Syria while going to Turkey, and Gene Roddenberry actually forms a landing party to search for civilization. He was a pilot before Star Trek, and they say that this is where he got the idea for the episodes. That's really interesting. Again, it's one of these ones that sounds really incredible. But I see the problem is that, you know, because I never want, you know, my being such an sophisticated internet user, you know, I'm not going to be taken in by anyone. Like, I don't want the fact that there are people who just make up stuff out of whole cloth to, you know, to necessarily mean that I can't have, like, fun, or I can't let interesting things stay in the world. Season of Despair. I don't think I have to worry about that. Alright, I'm safe for now. My adversary has not enough evidence to bring a case against me, and they found no new clues. Okay, that's surprising. I was kind of hoping that Connie would actually turn that into something. So, fair enough. I need to reimagine things. We'll see what happens when I bring the detective in. I don't think that will do anything, but yeah, so I'm skeptical of it, but I don't really have any reason to be. Like, there are incredible things that have happened to people, and some of those. So Scotty, for instance, participated in the war, and in fact, I believe he was shot differently. So first of all, Canadian. Second of all, needed to be shot in a special way to avoid revealing the fact that part of his finger was missing due to a war wound. Okay, so cracked Noonstone. Noon, the saying goes, is not what it was, but this stone still retains an embery glow. It has been cracked. A forge-aspected follower could restore it with sufficient resources, or I could use up what power remains in it. So I have an idea for that. We've got the Eljabaline Manacle. It does not relinquish its grip, so this is an instrument, and it's a pretty heavy winter one. That's cool. So what we'll do here, instead of the detective, so because the idea I had here is that maybe this thing can repair the Noonstone. Michael Dorn is also... I did not know that either. Mind you, I don't know anything about Star Trek. Like, I've never really seen an episode, so... the woman in the sand-colored robe has told me the stairways of the Mansis go ever up, death is down. The mother of ants guards in both directions, with each of her heads, and so the passage must always be through a wound. I think the white door might be a wound. That's the one reason why the dead sometimes pass it. I think I may have the other half of the secret now, and I hope that my reader can put both halves together. So this, I think, is the first time that a book has not been properly colored, has not been colored the same type of lore. I was expecting that it would be Nock, and it was not. So let's read the Rose of One's Eye, because Lantern's obviously the best lore. The offshoot, oh sorry, I guess I need to say that about Grail now. So the offshoot favored by One's Eye, the true sisterhood, followed Saint Respicius in pursuing ascension in the name of the door in the eye, the merciless hour of light. Saint Respicus failed, perhaps because the larger sisterhood tracked him down and ritually strangled him. But One's Eye outlined steps for those who hope to succeed. What am I doing? Get back on those expeditions. Strathcoin's residence, so we'll definitely need the Maid in the Mirror and the hint for that so we can murder people. And if we can preserve the Pergusigan, so much the better, but, you know, that's a secondary consideration at this point. Competent work. Notable. Come on, man. And let's... I won't do another contentment one again, because I have a feeling that causes me grief. Let's try this, shall we? Pergusigan, merciless and merry, heart will bring it, edge will constrain it. Alright, for now our enemy has chosen to wait. They're at 4 on each of the levels. Okay, so health is good. We'll obviously need to restore our health after the sickness, but no reason. Well, you know, 20 seconds I think I can live without going back to the Mantis for a little bit. Now, one of my other options, of course, is I can use someone like Clovette to the Pergussigan. I could use someone like Clovette to try and gobble up the notoriety. The thing is, I've got so much mystique right now that it's not the best use of my talk verb at the moment, but that is something I will be doing before too long. Okay, so we'll pay for health and bleak thought. So I don't think we'll have anything that generates despair coming up for the next little while. Fascination will be a problem soon, but nothing my words cease like sand in a glass. So this would be one I'd want to try and sort of return if I could, but I don't think... Thing is, like, I can try and preserve this forever. Well, you know, I'll try one more time. I'm going to try the same trick that I did with the Pergussigan. This is going to make it a little tricky for me to try and manage properly, but... Seek in dreams, seek the Mansis. The third mark can be achieved only when one has passed the stag door. One must pass the wood, one must rise to the white door. The stag door awaits the light bearer, the sign of Gerby. So this is a good case of where I would be willing to upgrade the edgelore, because of course Chiliarch's lesson, I'd still have one left over after upgrading these. So again, we'll just continue on. I don't really need any extra grail, but we'll read Rose of Nuriel. Saint Tryphon, Nuriel explains, performed secret miracles in the name of she who bleeds and bears, and she who opens. Thus Saint Tryphon opened the way to the house of the sun. Thus Saint Tryphon underwent the great birth, an ascension to immortality. So this one I want to pay particular attention to. Why? Because our rival right now, or rather the Long who's pursuing us, is Lady Tryphon. No, he cannot harm you. He cannot find you, but I suffer no such circumspection. Tryphon is more likely to use intrigue attacks, which is why we want to match that ideally with equivalent cultists. But maybe that there are some ideas in terms of how this can be, how we can deal with them. So right now we just kind of see some Grail associations, which are not surprising. Hey, Eyes of Sin, no problem. Thank you for liking the tweet, and I hope you are doing well. Alright, a rebellious spirit. The summoning is struggling against my control. I could use reason to dismiss it safely, which is always reliable, or I could try and reassert control with passion, which is not reliable, or I could let what will happen, happen. In this case, we'll use reason. There's no point in carrying on with it. We got Victor back, which is good news. And the hint's busy looking at the Long's plans, so... There's nothing left that I want to preserve, so... And as always, you shouldn't need to apologize for being late. This is entertainment. You can be here when you want to be here. Their blood pumps bright and then dark. They should not have opposed us. We move on. Okay, it's gone. We are safe. So in this case, I think I'm going to wait for the 11 seconds just to see if I can get the... if I can do this summoning trick again. But, yeah, no, it's, I appreciate it when people apologize for quote-unquote being late, but you are here at the time you need to be. It's, obviously this is all voluntary, this is for your entertainment. Absolutely none of this is mandatory, and so I'm happy to see you, but no apologies are needed, and I have absolutely no claim whatsoever to your time. Oh, every time you mention that you made tacos, I'm like, I gotta try tacos again. But I had a Subway sandwich because I knew I was running late. Not exactly the most romantic or interesting dinner I could have, but... Alright, we're waiting 5 seconds to get the smoky one back. I'm apparently too good at the pause now. So throw a little knock at it. Okay, so that's the catch. Oh my god, this actually worked. Forge for the Smoky Spirit summoning, Winter for its binding must... Oh, that's right. Wait. Really? I'll work with it. Okay, so I need to... Let's get Valsine to do her thing. Now I'm most curious... We made a snare before. Is it... Yes. So I'm curious. Edge, Forge, Moth, or Winter are useful for creating snares. Once created, a snare can be used when an independent makes an attempt on any vault. Okay, so we can make multiple types of snares, and we can make... Okay, interesting. I wonder if there's something that's more effective against Douglas, the former weary detective. Ooh. Yeah, I usually go for whatever the special is because I tend to read my menus right to left. I don't know, I pretty much any sandwich that I get, it's like I'm not a vegetarian, but I do really like vegetables. So it's basically, you know, whatever meat you have that's not very costly, and then just, you know, lettuce, green peppers, onions, tomatoes, spinach. I'm very content with that. Okay, so the question is, do I want to create a snare or do I want to repair the Noonstone? And in this case, I think I'm actually going to try... I want to see what happens when I create a snare on a high-level expedition. And then I think I will get a cracked noon. I'll repair the cracked Noonstone after that. So treasures lie before us. Still don't need to preserve anything. Saint Tryphon began his ascension. Hang on. Called it a her before. By passing the horn door, he continued it by learning the invocation Thyatic, which Nuriel does not here record, on account of its extreme holiness. And Nuriel explains grimly, to achieve the 7 marks of the Great Birth, St. Tryphon consumed both those whose soul had left them, and even those whose soul had remained. So we've got the Megalesian incantation, which we already have a copy of, and the Iguvine Rite. Every door in the Mansus requires its sacrifice before it will open. The Iguvine Rite rites prescribe the manner of the sacrifice. This will help us. Mine it was just chicken. That reminds you, you've been meaning to ask for a while if I've ever played Harvester. I have not even heard of Harvester. So can you give me the elevator pitch? And keep in mind, I do work on the 18th floor, so it can be a long elevator ride if it's something in depth like Cultist Simulator. Okay, only one more book to read right now. So the Rose of Hypatia, Saint Nympha, described as not born but cultivated. The sentience that became the Saint Hypatia indicates inhabited a sinner's corpse in order to enable that sinner's redemption. Isaacson says that Harvester is one hell of a ride. An older game, okay. A hell of a ride intrigues me, but I also know that that doesn't necessarily mean anything good. The Strange and Twisted World Harvester, the most violent adventure game, comes to Steam. Holy smokes. Is this even allowed on Twitch? LG played it, LG streamed it ages ago. The most violent adventure game of all time comes to Steam. You wake up one morning to a town full of strangers and inexplicable sights. You share your home with your not-so-perfect family, and your supposed fiancé lives next door. Then you are plunged into a nightmare. Your fiancée is missing, and you find a hideous bloody skull and spinal cord draped across her bed. Is it hers? What's going on? The only clue left behind is an engraved invitation for you to enter the Order of the Harvest. It's a Loudskin team played it as well. Okay, no promises that I'll play it, but if it is something you recommend, I will definitely take a look at it. So Dan's Gaming used to play it during Horror Month. Okay, so is it? I mean, it definitely looks very wild. Is it something that you recommend? I do admire. Obviously, Sin says that she thinks I'll get a laugh out of it, and Galva. Galva seems to be pretty enthusiastic, so I'm tempted. Okay, we will see. I'll see what I can do. It's a tricky question because it's worth playing for a strange and fun time. I think in this case I'm going to be a bit of a chicken and go for the Ascent of Knives because it's possible there is fascination waiting for me at the Painted River. I look like a genius now. Of the place my dreams took me last night, this has been written. The ascent is glass, the walls are knives, each step is blood. I did not climb far, the pain was too great. When I woke, that pain remained with me, a pain that I could employ for occult purposes if I hurry. Okay, nothing really else for me to do with Dream right now except go straight back into the... straight back through the stag door. I mean, I can try and go for other lore in other areas, but at this point, I'm perfectly content just hammering out the lore, so... Yeah, well, I think there's the lunar sale going on right now. Okay, this is one that I'm actually willing to use the passion on because they will help me with evidence. It's a risk, but you know the whole point of these later patches has been to remove sure things. So all kinds of interesting story bits to it. Well, I mean, again, as I always say, like I don't just say, oh, give me recommendations because I like disappointing people. I like recommendations for two reasons. A little bit like advice for games. You're not necessarily going to know specifically why something works for a stream or doesn't work for a stream. There's definitely a couple of games which I just simply will not play for reasons that are completely unique to me. And then there are some games which I want to play, but I'm not necessarily sure I would be the best one for them. And I think those are sort of interesting cases themselves, because obviously there are games that I'm willing to play sort of off-cast, and they're appealing enough to me to do that. Like to be something that I personally will enjoy, but what's the best way for me to say? Like, I know I wouldn't be able to do well. One game that I wonder about this is actually Transistor, because I've tried it a couple of times, but because that game is so good for its dialogue, I sometimes feel like I'm talking over it all the time, and so I'm not sure that I do a good job of it. But I'll probably be giving it a try again, regardless. So I can never really make a promise to people that I'll play it. The only time I really make a commitment to cover a game is when I'm given a press key for it and I accept it. And that's just, I think, that's fair. I know some streamers sort of look at the idea of like getting a key for something as just like a perk of the job. And they're welcome to do so, right? Because if they're not going to value the game that they're playing, maybe it isn't going to be the best coverage anyway. But I do try and keep as strict as I can to make sure that I play the stuff that I'm given a key for and try and give it like a proper go over. But beyond that, I really just kind of play what I'm interested in. And so getting advice from people in terms of the types of games that they'd like to see or the types of games that they think I might enjoy gives me an idea of not only how people think about the stream and what they think about sort of what I play, but it also means that, let's say somebody comes along with a key offer, like, and I mean, I'm a small streamer, but I still get like independent game developers just, cold calling, hey, we've got this thing, do you want to give it a try? And I'd love to cover every single one of them. I used to do a lot more of those than I do now, and my schedule is just getting a little too full. But when something like that comes by, and it happens to be similar to something that somebody's recommended in the past, those are the ones that I really want to snap up, because to me, that lies in the sweet spot. I get to try something new, and because it's similar to something that somebody else has played. So for instance, Galvo was talking about this really fun little game. I played it on Mac. I don't know if it ever made to PC. It's an older Mac game called Escape Velocity. If I were to play a game that's like Escape Velocity on stream, a whole batch of people who'd never heard of it would be able to experience it. And so the developer's potentially going to get an audience which they wouldn't have normally been able to reach. Number two, people who want to see something like Escape Velocity would be able to see it. And so, those are rare opportunities, but when you guys do give me recommendations, they are the sort of thing that really do help me. Again, it kind of goes into the filing folder in the back of my head, and when an opportunity like that comes up, I'm much more likely to get it because I have a frame of reference for what people want. How you doing, The Exception? Good to see you. The rest were all... Oh, I didn't know there was more than one. I wonder which one I played. Out into the night, we escape unseen, but the next day there are reports of a fire at Strathcoins. Did somebody knock over a live coal on the hearth rug? Or did Strathcoin destroy the place himself as part of some larger scheme? So in this case, we've got the Wainscot Histories, subtitled The Stories from Behind Walls, a miscellany of non-traditional histories compiled by William Gore, including battles not generally acknowledged and countries which appear on no map, told in a playful, apparently fictional manner. We've got the Journal of Alessandro Lecroc, or possibly Lacrosse. So this looks like a new one. The prince spent years in the secret study of the tablets taken from the Fucine marshes in central Italy. His work will allow you to decipher Fucine texts. So this is the one that we were missing way back in our last playthrough. Locksmith's Dreams, Stolen Reflection, the fourth volume of Teresa Gallagher's expansive work, no longer a discussion of the dreams of artisans, but a valuable survey of other works. The tone is calmer than that of Trespasses, but occasionally fearful, even paranoid. This volume, published in 1926, but almost immediately recalled and pulped by the publisher at the request of the author, or possibly the authorities, depending on which story you believe. A few copies survive. Traveling at Night, Volume 5, Volume 3, Annotated Dream Journals of Christopher Alopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist, literate, entertaining, bewildering. This is the third volume. And a treatise on the underplaces. Herein, the 17th century mystic and antiquarian Claude Hirschalt describes the bounds of were underplaces on the borders of dream. He warns that they shift over time. Now, here's a neat thing. When, in the alpha that I played, when you broke into Strathcoins, you would actually get the Geminiad, and there was no way of translating it. So apparently we've now gotten the translation. I also rather like the fact that Strathcoins always gives books now. I think that's a nice touch as well. So anyways, on to the Forsaken Reach. We'll throw the Maid in the Mirror and a hint at it as well. Again, it would be nice to keep the Percussicant, but I wouldn't be able to do my summoning noises if we didn't let them expire, right? Not all the dead enter the mansis by the winter door. Not all the dead enter the mansis at all. So we've got the Words That Walk and Wood Whisper. Similar idea here. I can read this and upgrade it, but because it only gives me the Ecdysis Parable, That'll be 2 of those, so I won't be able to upgrade them further as long as I want to keep 1 of each right. Okay, studying. Which do I start with? You know, I don't have anything that I need to translate yet, so I think I'm just gonna read through whatever I can. Gore does not mention the Mansus directly, but constant coy metaphorical references to ascending the staircase of years and the doors of sleep and to the blue light of dawn suggest that he had commerce with the unseen world. Oh, where were we? What about the game Realms that was on Mac 2, made by Fantasoft? Do you think the default city was like the city of Bywater? Yeah, I got that. So it took me a little effort to play because I don't know if that ever got translated to OS X. At least the version that I played was like an older copy. It was neat. It was really like my first ever exposure to anything that could be like even remotely referred to as a role-playing game. So that was really neat. I didn't go very in-depth with it. The version that I had was like a demo. Essentially, like I was out of school and there were like 100 copies of like Mac Addict or something like that, and I got it off of that. But it was fun. Like I'd never really played a game like that before, so I thought it was pretty cool. So I'm slightly curious if I can upgrade this thing. So what I'll do is I'll take Velsine because I'm going to upgrade the Cracked Noonstone, or I'm going to take care of the Cracked Noonstone if it comes down to it anyway. But the thing that I'm most interested in right now is we're generating these, simpler snares. I'm a little worried about the fact that Douglas has a knock scar. We may not actually have the money to be able to do this. Okay, let's carry on. Mastery regained. My summoning will obey my wishes for now. So I can use my Furious Air. In this case, I might as well just summon a Percussicant again. So let's take the Sunset Rite. We will take Furious Air. Waking Chant. And Enid. Percussicant, Merciless, and Merry. Heart will bring it, Edge will constrain it. Actually, let me just take a minute here. Lantern, Heart, or Winter. So Winter is the Maid in the Mirror. Right, Lantern is the hint, so... Okay, I also lost the plot, so we'll send Ulcare to deal with the Starlight attack. You're definitely bringing up some delightfully deep cuts, Galva. These are definitely some fun games that I should probably come back to. I should see if I have a way of doing them on stream, actually, because I think they'd be sort of neat to go over. I really regret doing that Noonstone move, actually, because let's do Painted River. It's likely I don't have the money for it, and there's other things I can do with the Talk Verb. Painted River runs from the Great Chamber near the White Door through the Mansus. It's far to its far edge where it enters. Oh, we've read this before. Sorry, I don't mean to rush through it. The writing is really wonderful, but I probably should make a little more progress, especially because I had a particularly long start. It's a bit later till you actually got on the internet. It was then that you played a MUD. Now, I've never really experienced a MUD. I mean, you can sort of say, well, really, what are MMOs than just, MUDs with a sort of a graphical layer over them? I'm like, I kind of get it. I'm pretty sure if you were to play World of Warcraft with like a log, but I've never actually had the experience of playing a MUD. I mean, I'm assuming some of them are still around, but like I didn't really know. I I was interested. The idea sounded really cool, but I don't think there was anything for me to really play. I wasn't at least aware of it. So, okay, the Watchman will lend virtue to our lamps, and that will show us the perils to avoid, probably. I'm curious. Yeah, that won't solve my problems right now. So I believe that's the treacherous ground. So in this case, Pope Clifton should take us through. The Watchman will clear our sight so that we can almost certainly pass without error. Gore's Wainscot Histories. It was common in that time to speak of the division of the sun, by which contemporaries understood the eruption of barbarian forces and their uncouth gods. Okay, Locksmith Stream next. Janus is the gatekeeper, the twin god, the god of that wounds, the presager of changes, the sun, the moon. So we identify him with the Watchman, the twins, with the mother, with the forge, with the Menascate and the Madrigard. He cannot be all these, can he? The Flemens knew the church, knew the dry land, knew Elgabalus. Is he then synthesis, or is he something new? In Galatia, they called him Ianus Lamius, but the Obliviates are notorious for their slanders. So this is a really interesting one, because this, in conjunction with a bunch of other lore, will have... I think this is a really useful one that kind of combines a few different factors. So this is really interesting. It didn't successfully delay the attack here. Our enemy's knowledge of my hopes and fears is advanced. They no longer need to fuel their sendings with my dread. This night's dream is cinnamon and amber. It arrives fresh from the Mallory, tempting as uncut cake, haloed in firelit nostalgia. But yeah, so this one sort of seems to be a nice little glue that brings a few different threads together in terms of the books. I've really been meaning to sit down. They need funds to complete their task. Oh, okay, perfect. I've really been meaning to sit down and like hammer out some of this lore, but I'm also kind of bad at finding the time for this. So you've played many games over the years, but you've never come close to capturing the feels of that mud. Well, I think sometimes it's a little bit like how everyone's favorite Dark Souls game is the one that they first played, because I mean, then there's the people who are like, you know, Demon Souls was the hardest or like the best. And it's like the hardest / best is always the one that is the hardest to find, because there's no way of verifying how, you know, hardcore or not hardcore you are. But I think one big driver of that is that it's very hard to recreate that experience. Like the first adventure, like if you've played adventure games, the first adventure game that you've ever played will probably be a very special experience, even if it's not a very good one. You know, and then of course if you start with the LucasArts adventure games, they probably were some of the best. So like maybe that's a bit different. But like, you know, Gabriel Knight was one of the first adventure games I ever played. And if I really sit down and think about it, there are some problems with that game. I still think it's pretty decent, and that's probably just a memories thing. I definitely should not have been playing that at the age I played it at, by the way. But, like, I think there's probably a reason why the modern one, which had, like, the new recordings and all of that, didn't really work. Because I think its merits as a game aren't quite there. But damned if I don't really like that game and have good memories of it. So yeah, it's a tough one. Like sometimes there is, and this, by the way, I think if you hear Harebrained Schemes or inXile talk about this, like they do talk about how conscious they are of how people react to some of their old classic favorites being remade, because it's very hard to preserve that original experience, and communicating that it will be different or communicating what you're going to do with it can be very important in making sure that an audience doesn't sort of turn against you for reasons that really have nothing to do with the individual merits of the game so much as their expectations. So it's an interesting problem. I mean, again, I don't develop games, so like I only know about this stuff sort of secondhand from from people talking about them. But again, as I was saying, Cultist Simulator has been really this experience with me to see, and again, this is partly because of Weather Factory's open production. Like, I'm able to see in much more detail and a little bit closer to the moment what goes into some of these decisions. I can, I think I've mentioned this before. When you're doing the Lantern Ascension, there's this reference to, when you're going down the path, when your desire is sort of leveling up, and they're trying to communicate that your skin is getting like a little flappy. They talk about how you can take the skin between your thumb and your forefinger and like pull it over like your first or second sort of kind of like knuckle. There was a specific tweet from like, I probably, with a bit of searching, I bet I could find it, where he actually talks about that. And I'm like, you know, he's actually given out a tweet where he shows one of the dreams, and specifically the items on his desk, which led to the writing of that dream. But it's really kind of neat to actually see, whether it's the question of like, how do I recapture the nostalgia that people had for, you know, BattleTech or Shadowrun or something like that, or, you know, how do I write a strange world of Dream? To be able to see these people talk at the moment that they're making those decisions is a really interesting way of seeing games. And I do sort of think that they lead to these, I think they sort of lead to these interesting takes on the games. Like, I definitely experience Cultist Simulator quite differently from maybe how I would have when I first played it. But I've delayed the hour long enough. I feel like I'm not putting the same effort into those. I'm sorry, guys. But let's get money. What can I do with my work slot? Am I missing anything fancy? So I don't want to go back to G&G because my notoriety will be a problem. Can I, if I work these, prepare the 7 graces? Ah, that's right. I even wrote down what I needed for these. MRA 6, I'm glad you liked. This is the thing, there are still new people who come to the stream. So oh, that's really cool. I forgot I wrote this note. There's some really nice feedback for Cultist Simulator. I was able to send up the chain. So there were some things that I needed to prepare the spices. I've beaten the game before. I have. Now I'm cheating to get this ascent. Actually, I'm cheating in 2 ways to get this ascent. So last week I was definitely not on top of the game, and so I actually got some really stupid deaths to Fascination. But this playthrough started on the Steam page for this game, and I sort of think, like, if I do a big event like that and 2 streams later it's like, oh, sorry guys, you know that Ascension, you know, legacy you wanted to see? Well, I'm gonna do my Lantern victory again because I was an idiot and died to Fascination. I don't think that always makes for the best. Oh, that's right, we needed ingredients. Okay, I definitely don't have what I need for this. But yeah, so I cheated in that sense where I wanted to revive myself, but in order to play it on the Steam page in a timely fashion, they did give. I mean, this other streamers got this as well, but there's a little save file that they give that gives you your choice of apostle. So, but yeah, in order to get the apostle legacies, I believe you need to get an ascension victory. I am not aware, unless of course you modify the save file. I'm not aware of being able to engage with this particular content otherwise. I really do like some of the reactions to the percussive noises, even as silly as they are. It's actually, the reactions make me feel a little less self-conscious about the silliness. I think what I'm going to do, let me just double check that, oh, it's the Season of Suspicion. I will accept the fact that I'm going to take a hit on notoriety. We will, however, direct Connie's attention to where I want it to go, and that is the fresh notoriety. Can I paint the snare? No. So the idea here is that Connie's going to scoop up this notoriety, and then the 22-second one will be preserved through the painting, and it will sort of poof on its own. All according to plan. I think I'm starting to get this. Okay, another Forbidden Epic. Let's combine these out to... Okay, so I was very pleasantly surprised to find out that I didn't need to spend the currency of the underworld to get rid of that. 96 seconds, so we should be okay for now. We're mud spattered and thorn scratched, but we've made it through. I do want to make sure that I put the Pergusagant into the expedition as quickly as I can. Let's pay for our paints, and in this case, I do kind of want to make the most of my speech right now. So first of all, we're gonna get a commission from Jannings. We'll turn in Adeems, and then what else do I want to do? I think I'll probably Callaghan. I think I'll probably talk with Callaghan pretty quickly. That's just because I don't want the timer to go down too fast. Okay, so one Percussagant. Oh, I should still be using Dream. And I did not know that this volume gave me Fascination, so Janus has, they say, not one face but two, to which I reply, why only one? Why only two? Herschel and Costly, according to Thomas Love Denman, once agreed that Janus was all the gods and none, but later Herschel insisted that he was all the gods, and Costly favored simply none. Denman was a sinister dilettante, but this rings true of them both. Okay, another Ecdysis Parable, although that's good news there because I can now upgrade the Wood Whisper, I can upgrade to the Ecdysis Parable, we can still get a new level out of that and still retain the self-imposed rule of one of each lore type. Kind of seems that this game needs a big monitor. It sort of depends. I mean, so I figure the game's pretty generous with its zoom. So if you want, you can sort of see everything. And then in terms of the text, I mean, even if you want, like, as far as scaling's concerned, like, you can really mess with it as much as you want. I do think, at a personal level, I think that the game is actually designed in such a way. So this is something that, it wasn't last stream, but it was a stream before on the Steam page. Somebody really had a big problem, like they got into it with me in YouTube comments over the fact that I missed a particular thing in the game. And this also happened on another stream. It was on another storefront, who I am very angry at, so I will not mention their name. So I mean, like, obviously with streaming, you're just gonna have moments where you're distracted. Like, obviously I'm pausing and engaging with chat here, and when I don't pause and engage with chat, I usually miss things. And I think part of this game is the fact that you've got a bunch of spinning plates and you have a bunch of different things demanding your attention, and it is not designed to be played perfectly. I mean, you can turn it into a turn-based game by just pausing all the time, but I actually think that this game, like, work is designed so that you need to click and drag it over, and that you always need to do that, and that it's possible to forget, because part of this game really is, you know, the fact that you can get so into your studies that you wind up neglecting yourself, and that you get maybe decrepitude from the fact that you haven't eaten. And I mean, again, one of the reasons why the Aspirant legacy appealed to me was that it reminded me a lot of grad school. And so, yes, I can remember some times when I have sort of been in my books and it has been a really long time, and the only thing that pulls me out of studying is realizing how so incredibly hungry I am that, you know, I just can't go on any further. So, in that sense, I actually think it's sort of a virtue that the way that I sort of play the game is to look at fragments of the game, because part of this is just, you know, if you're representing your life and your idea, you know, the way that you organize things, this is going to reflect part of, you know, the way I'm thinking. I obviously try a new layout each time I play the game, so that's maybe not as accurate in my own case, but yeah, I do actually think the game is designed around the idea that you might miss some particular objects. I'm not entirely sure that that's unintentional, but certainly a larger monitor would definitely be, I don't know, maybe it's like a cheat code for the game. But you die way too fast if you don't pause. I've actually done, so on the interview that I did with Weather Factory, I did an essentially a no pause game. The text wasn't as read in as much depth, but that was a unique way to play the game for sure. Okay. As much as I don't want to, I'm gonna store the Callagine to read mysteries, or to not read mystery, to deal with the evidence when it emerges. It would have been nice to upgrade Neville, but in this case, I think it's better to be cautious, and we will do Traveling at Night. Allopolis' disquisitions on fire and the unburnt god are interrupted by passages of distractedly erotic poetry addressed to Baldomera. As all are fond of saying, now we know why he's the most readable occultist. Am I right? Okay, Juicy Dreams. Our enemy's knowledge of my hopes and fears has advanced. Oh yes, we've read that already. They no longer need to fuel the sendings with my dread. This night's dream is cinnamon and amber. It arrives fresh from the Mallory, tempting as uncut cake, haloed in firelit nostalgia. This is kind of neat. So you have like an awesome dream, so you're really content, but you also have something that can potentially end you, and this is going to be a bit of a challenge. If I've got Fascination coming up soon, this is going to be something that can destroy me. So once the evidence dealt with, I'm going to experiment with an alternative method to. Oh, hang on, that's my hint. No, my hint's not back yet. Okay, so we'll throw you back in to spy on the Long. I do rather wish I could learn how to make better snares, but I'll think about that later. Okay, I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. In this case, we'll just collect all. Now, it'd be wonderful if I could use that fleeting remembrance on the Fascination. I probably should have been thinking about that a little bit more closely, but unfortunately I didn't, and so that's gonna... I mean, I suppose I can try preserving it through painting, but I have a feeling there was at least some discussion in chat that that might be a way that I generate Fascination. So in this case, I think I'm gonna accept that this is gonna die, and I'm gonna experiment with another way of getting rid of Fascination when I can. But in the meantime, aspect. The eyes in my memory. The Long has sent me a street dream. I must not think of it. If you dream away this card or use it in a ritual, the Long will learn from you, increasing their power in your dreams. Whoa! We're gonna put you in the toxic waste. That's very devious. Okay. Oh. I think I know how I'm gonna get rid of this. Our strength is matchless. The Watchers will almost certainly regret standing against us. We don't have anything else I want to preserve, so more contentment coming because I don't have any romance. What else did I want to say? Right, we don't have the evidence yet, and I'm gonna wait to work. I'm certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor or with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. So I don't think she's an idealist. I can have a chat with her about grim matters, and that'll help me with the fascination. Let me just double check what this says here. So specifically, dream away this card or use it in a ritual. So I can't have it touch dream, and I can't use it in the ritual. Obviously this is going to go. So I was thinking that one thing I could try and do would be to try and spook her with some winter lore. But I'd fall on the horns of that particular trap, so. Just, you know, it's my contingency edge, let's say. I think in this case I'm just going to take the trembling heat. One of the reasons for that is I don't have a lot to do with my work slot right now, so we'll grab that. Gearby was weeping again. I scooped up his molten tears in my cupped palm. In the dream, my skin peeled and blistered, but only in the dream. So, Stag Door again for... Yes, that's what I want to do. And then let's see if I can do anything about that trembling heat. The 34 edge is not really that I feel the need to use it. It's just the fact that I'm able to preserve some followers. So obviously the smart thing for me to do would be to go to the sort of top tier and then down to the bottom tier. But basically I'd been hoarding all of these expeditions, and the point was to try and get like a dream team together in order to be able to get through the, damn it, in order to be able to get through the. I am completely failing with words tonight. In order to be able to get through as much content as I could. And as it turns out, that is not a good idea because I have a rival as well as some other factors in this that I'm only just learning now. But that's some of the fun of learning. So possibilities here. Winter, you might contact something smoky. At Lantern, you might contact an incandescent power. Something tells me that I'm not going to be able to summon King Crucible. Oh, really? I never would have thought. Well, it does say some Lantern. No, so in that case, let's throw some Winter at it. Obviously, I'm generating lots of notoriety, so probably it's not the worst thing in the world that I'm preparing myself for that. So, to reach the Stag Door, I believe that all you really need is to want something enough. But I've never wanted anything that much, except, of course, Baldamera. And I'm very much afraid that the knot in the story is this. What Baldamera wants is the Stag Door. But here's something I learned in Persia. Perhaps it'll teach you what you want. So we've got a Smith's Secret. Not exactly the most exciting thing to pull out of this, but fair enough. More erudition. We're already at the max for the skill, so no real worries there. And we will read the treatise on the underplaces. The walls of the Mansis, Herschelt begins, are the size of starlight. Many of its directions are equally unhelpful, but common relationships do emerge. So we'll see whether or not the tampering works. So this is only going to be a temporary solution, but I have an idea here. My minion has not returned. They have failed, and their blundering may have attracted attention. Well, not my favorite thing to generate, but it happens. So here's how I'm going to try and get rid of this fascination. We will do Order the Bloody Cup. Let's recruit Neville. So we can add fascination as trappings. Now, again, this isn't necessarily going to... This isn't going to add anything. But I believe, as with most things, it'll gobble up whatever's going on. So in this case, because I'm using it in the Toth verb, I think that I get to get rid of this for free. Treasures lie before us. Their blood pumps bright, then dark. They should not have opposed us. We'll move on. Okay, just in time. Courier has arrived with our delight, from our delight, with a single vial of their most holy blood. So, Again, I still need to get certain items before this will be helpful for me, but the place behind desire. Is there something to be learnt from the satisfaction of desire? Okay, so it seems like the Long didn't get any stronger. That is a nice little effective way to get rid of their evil dreams. And Neville pauses before he speaks and flinches easily. He's sensitive to deeper matters. So of course the drawback here is that I'm not going to have that many more recruitments ahead of me. But we might as well get rid of what we can. So season of ambitions I want to be a little careful about, because that may mean, oh, you know what, I'm not going to be able to stop this one way or the other. Let's go back to the Ascended Knives. So I do need to deal with this because it will decay into dread, but I think we can work with that. I visited the Ascent of Knives last night, the harshest of roads through the house. It has been sacred to the Menascate and the Sun and Rag since their intercalate, when the true sun was divided. When I woke, my room was freezing. The chill of it had cracked the window glass. Okay, so it's less than a minute. I think I'm actually going to wait and we'll be able to combine this. It'll turn into fascination, but we already know that, so we can prepare. It's a rebellious spirit. So in this case, I think I'm going to get rid of it with reason, because I think with the bitter atmosphere, I should be able to get a new one. It's a problem if I don't, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. Alright, a picturesque account of a journey through a nightmare interspersed with what might be partial rites. On the 18th ascent is a bud. On the 36th ascent, the blossom. So, again, we can double this up, but I don't want to because I want to keep one of every lore, and then we'll just get the language because we don't have anything else to do. There's something in common with Latin and something else in common with the scratchings of maddened rats. This is something like enlightenment. All right. The Watchers were here guarding crates sealed with thief-signed ribbons. This was not a lawful operation. The owners of the cargo may not be pleased with our meddling. So, my beloved Percussagant, of course, more notoriety because one can never have enough of that, right? Pope Clifton, Percussagant number 2, hint made in the mirror. We got some money. We got another cracked Noonstone. I don't exactly need that, but I suppose it's nice to have. Another Refulgin. Or possibly Fulgin. And another set of stained gloves. So that was not exactly the sort of expedition I wanted to go on, but you can't pick what you get, right? So, well, I guess you can now because the expeditions have deterministic outcomes, but let's carry on. It is rare for passenger vessels to visit the Grim Island where the Hebe Stanton is docking, but we can charter a fishing boat and trust the sea behaves. The real work of passing guards and doors will begin if we get on board. So, obviously I bring the ones I want to preserve first. 30 seconds until I need to worry about the blood. Okay, it's gone. We are safe. So what is this going to gobble up? Is there a way that I can get Douglas set aside? I really don't think I can. Okay, well, what will happen will happen. So let's offer up the winter. I think probably it's best if I make Laidlaw the assistant, and then hopefully we have enough knock to... Damnation. I was a little scared that might happen. Well, let's try the other possibility. Sunset right. I mean, it doesn't have to be... Yeah, okay. So, let's say whatever knock I can. I think if it's... edge is made in the mirror, but if it's heart... it's the Voiceless Dead. I think the Voiceless Dead are the ones that are good at stealing stuff too. So these are the dead who do not descend or ascend, but who remain in the Mansis and dream of winter. The power of winter, along with a little of heart's warmth, will draw them here. Okay, Douglas was the one to get gobbled up. So what we're going to do here, I'm actually going to send another colleague off to build a snare. We may not have it done in time. But pain we are born, in hunger we are embraced, and delight we are devoured. And these are the gates of the body, and this is her promise. Not all that is born decays. In remembrance of that promise, we give ourselves to the feast. Okay, so rivalry. Here is another who would ascend before me. Independent occultists will try to monopolize the attention of the hours. They may also conduct other schemes, whether you like it or not. Cautious scheme traces left by a rival's decision to move cautiously. Yeah, I don't know what else I can really do about this. So let's get Valsine on the case. And we will say... Okay, so if I put the Bloody Cup here, it's craftsmanship. If I put a location here... create a snare to delay or defeat a rival. Rivals are cautious. They don't prowl the streets like hunters. To defeat one, we must prepare a trap and await our opportunity. Edge, Forge, Moth, or Winter are useful for creating snares. I'm going to write that down, actually. Edge, Forge, Moth. I also should have prepared a little bit better for this. Because it's likely we're going to have a gap. Hey, have a good... it's good to see you too, Domi. I hope you have a pleasant sleep when you get to it. I consume the little vial of blood, lie back, close my eyes. Tomorrow I will be stronger. Okay, so I also need to be... So this is a pretty precarious situation I find myself in, because in a few seconds we're going to have notoriety problems. Develop an understanding of long-dead Fusine language. In places it overlaps with languages I know. In other places, well, I can see why they call it the tongue of witches, but I understand it well enough now. So here's what's coming down the... this is going to be what's coming up. Season of Suspicion, which means that we've got 2 notoriety, which are a liability, plus whatever the outcome of the expedition is, which, incidentally, we'll get the Percussagant in there right now. So we're going to have to deal with, most of these islands are well known to the histories, but our destination lies in uncharted reaches. We'll need Heart or Forge to survive. Well, we got a Percussagant, so good news there. Watchers, no real worries there, and Forge or Knock. So it would be best if I could get some more Forge creatures in, but that's just simply not going to happen. The Percussagant obviously is not going to make it. I could, of course, switch it around. I could put the expiring one in, but essentially that would mean that I lose a minute off of this one. So the total doesn't quite work for me. So what we'll do here, first of all, we'll put Neville in his proper place. This I'm okay with. I need to make sure that I either deal with the tentative evidence or I delay the notoriety long enough. And then I also need to deal with the fact that I'm going to have my rival potentially gobbling up one of my expeditions. So now, studying. I should probably get on top of this because there are some... there's some lore that I can advance. And in this particular case, I think I'm going to try and advance the Moth first. Now, that may generate old, unhappy, far-off things, but that's not the worst thing to happen when you have Fascination coming up. The other thing that it may do, or the other potential that it has, of course, is that I'll get the highest level of a new lore as a result of moving that up. And then the second, if I don't get anything else, will be to upgrade my edge. For the time being, let's, in the absence of anything else to do for studying, let's double these up. When breath is black, when breath is black at the glass, when the mist tautens the skin, when woods walk in winter, we hear these words. And then as far as dreaming is concerned, I, against my better judgment, will go back through the stag door. Okay. So in 38 seconds, the rival is going to... Oh, hang on. Is that their business in the shadows? They're still in hiding. What exactly are they up to? Almost always, this will end inconclusively, but occasionally a rival will manage to increase their power in secret. Consider tempting them out of hiding by leaving an expedition open. Well, I mean, we certainly have no shortage of that. So we'll see what he does. It would not be terrible if they didn't follow through on this opportunity, just because I'm not really well prepared for them. Alright, a rising power. Our immortal enemy has allies and resources in many nations. They will move slowly, but as time passes, they will bring more and more of those allies and resources to bear against us. So they've increased their might. It'd be really interesting if I had... Oh. Do you kill the rival or what? So this is the big trick. With Connie Lee, you certainly can. Douglas is a bit different. He needs to be, so far as I can tell, he needs to be trapped, which we've done once before. But as with any other mortal who I'm assuming isn't a detective, I actually need to successfully spring a trap on him 3 times. So... he will frustrate me for sure, but he may also, you know, he may be something that I can manage a little bit like detectives. It's possible that you can manage them without necessarily having to kill them. I just happen to not have any problem with killing people on this particular round. Immortal enemy, suppose you don't kill that. Yeah, so, in terms of the Long, I believe there will be a final showdown with the Long, but at the moment they just seem to be doing whatever they want to clobber me. Okay, it looks like they picked up their might. I was wondering if I could take... So I have a theory that you might be able to put this inside of the recruitment, and in that case you'd be able to gobble up the increased might. Well, during the playthrough for Roland, I didn't do anything violent. If storm strikes, the Sisterin Witch will keep our crew and our vessel in one piece. Probably. Dorothy, please make that a certainty. Alright, we've got another rebellious spirit. I do rather want the moth, so... Things from outside this world have many weapons, knives and riddles, fire and despair. I have weapons of my own. This usually, but does not always work. Okay, so let's see if I can balance... Unfortunately, all of my plans... Oof! That's gonna cost me. I believe she will be able to successfully create the evidence. So we're going to finish summoning the Voiceless Dead, but because I'm making the snare, I'm probably going to be too late. So, mastery regained, I'm succeeding. I'm actually definitely going to be too late because I won't be able to use the... I won't be able to use the... I won't be able to use the... I won't be able to use the summoning to take up that evidence. So, you know what? It would have been smarter for me to upgrade the secret histories, not the moth. That was a dumb move on my part, but I'll cover it next time. Okay. So there goes the evidence. Course of the Heart, so that's good. My rival has been up to some kind of mischief. The Suppression Bureau may take note. So he didn't become more powerful though, so good news there. This one's particularly dangerous, but we do have the Voiceless Dead to deal with it. And I need to mind my manners as far as generating despair is concerned. Okay. I think I'm going to start working on some of these commissions I've been neglecting. So let's do Heart, which needs to be level 4. We will apply our reason towards that. I'm a little annoyed with myself for not doing more of these commissions because the Spintrea would be really helpful for repairing things. My followers prepared a stratagem which, with considerable luck, might defeat a rival's plans. So there has to be a way to make better snares. I just haven't found it yet. But in the meantime, we'll send the Voiceless Dead off to deal with whatever evidence emerges. And I will examine, I don't know, alternatives to snares when the time comes. Expedition continues. So we will need at least one more funds for this. I'm going to throw that in because I don't have a summoning to preserve. Alright, if this ever reaches trial, I will be in serious danger. Even if this hunter is disposed of, another may find their notes. So we'll take the damning evidence, we'll give that to the Voiceless Dead right away. I'm not so concerned about vitality because we've already got... oh, actually, yeah, we've got maximum level there, although it might be helpful if I get sick. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing... It feels like you should be able to upgrade a snare, but I haven't figured that out yet. It also, well, I mean, it has the snare effectiveness. I don't know. I'll see. Strength is matchless. The Watchers will almost certainly regret standing against us. So, I mean, if I have an opportunity to bring the Voiceless Dead inside, I'll take it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to bring them in. Let's go back to the Ascent of Knives. Okay. Similar story here. I'm just going to continue on my commissions. Oh, but I can't do that one because I don't have Forge level 6. So I'm going to sit on my hands probably. Don't really want to create any more problems for myself than I already have, so no... Well, no, what I should do then is I should summon something with the Furious Air. Come on. Enid will be our summoner. Lantern, Heart, or Winter. So Lantern's really helpful. Yeah, no, I didn't think I'd have enough, but... Because hints can spy on the long. I await word. Speaking of people who obstruct the long. My minion has returned and the evidence has been destroyed. I'm a little safer. Okay, so we'll throw them back into the group. So I am a little interested if maybe I talk to another member, like, let's say if I make it a, so this will be like a Forge and maybe like a Winter snare. But I do want to try the recruitment. I want to get that dealt with. So let's talk. Now, of course, again, the drawback here is that I am cutting myself off from opportunities to kill Fascination, but that's life. Okay, happy to get Elkair back. Promising research. This project has possibilities. When research requirements appear, I must fulfill them to gain insight. If I gain 3 insight, I will succeed. Otherwise, I may fail. I think I'm going to have a chat with Dr. Redeem in between the sessions. Oop, expedition continues. Expedition plan. We're good there. Oh, no, we're not. But I might be able to put the hint in, so I'll wait there. They will not forget the savor that I've given them. Slee speaks earnestly of his theories to all who will listen. The stars are as tiny wounds, and the sun is a hemorrhage of glory. His poetry is more eccentric than ever. So, what we'll do here, I think... There's not a lot for me to fear from the next turn. So what we'll do, I'll get a new commission from Dr. Redeem, because that's only 10 seconds. I feel like I think I still need to talk about lore, because I don't think I have everyone. Okay, we can fulfill that one for sure. Let's talk with Jannings and get that spinning. Ah, damn it. I really need to use the keyboard hotkeys for these. So again, this is just kind of trying to keep me in Spintrea, and it would be nice to sort of be able to work out a little bit of a cycle of research and turning this stuff in. So the Hinter do not indulge themselves with showy entrances. A living gaze will shatter them. I know it's here, and that's enough for now. So we'll put them straight into the expedition. Reason for doing so: our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds, so on and so forth. Oh, it's Forge or Knock, damn it. Okay. I don't have either. So what I will do instead, I'm going to throw them into preparing an action. Nope, that's a dumb idea too. I'm actually just going to let them hang out. And what I'll do instead, because I know we're going to need Knock or... sorry, it was Knock or Forge, right? In this case, we'll actually send Neville in, and Enid will follow, because that will give us enough. I definitely should have thought a lot more carefully about that, but we didn't ruin anything. So anyways, let's do our commission, because again, it won't necessarily pay a lot in terms of cash, but I'm actually short on Spintrea, not on money, so... Right, I've received currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. The mystique will probably give me a little bit of breathing room when Miss Lee comes knocking. Learning anything about their plans? Preparations ongoing, enemy is preparing another action. But we don't know what. It looks like, yeah, it looked for a minute like a direct assault, but... let's... talk with Slee, because that will get that'll get our that'll at least allow me to do some more recruitment generally. We're skilled in uncovering warded ways. We'll probably penetrate this warded door. We bear a great power of opening. We'll almost certainly shatter this warded door. Story. In this case, the vitality will just have enough time. I'm gonna hold off on taking care of any of these or on doing anything else with Dream, because I need to make sure that this thing is pretty closed in. So as it turns out, the Wood Whisper didn't turn out. That's a shame, but it's not the worst thing in the world, because either the expedition will be finishing quickly, or more importantly, I'm going to be able to double up the Forbidden Epics. So I feel okay there. This will be Intrigue. Intends to use trickery against us, and of course we've got all the best people for that. So Saliba, please go do your thing. And yeah, we'll use the vitality to heal up. I should have enough time for that. And then in 30 seconds, I'm actually going to see if there's a way that I can upgrade the snare. My current hypothesis is to take one of the other aspects that is capable of making snares and sort of combining that. The other thing is to try and get them independently to make a snare while one of them is active, and that might enhance the snare. That's the other possibility I'm exploring. But we'll only be able to figure this stuff out by experimenting, so it would be nice to have a commission to do for Jennings, but we can't, so I won't. What's coming up next? Season of Fascination. I think I'm actually going to try and preserve... I'm going to try and preserve that fleeting reminiscence just in case it becomes useful. Alright. Slee's headaches become crippling, and his theories grow more practical by the day. His poetry's getting better, too. So, as always, the best cult, we are only getting the best people in the best cult. So what we'll do now, as far as talking is concerned, I want to try this experiment with the snare. So the aspects that can potentially make snares are Edge, Forge, Moth, and Winter. So in this particular case, I think I'm going to go for... let's be nasty. Let's get Eldridge to help us out with our snare. Okay, so we can't discuss the snare. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm now going to take the creation, and this will be a test of the hypothesis that making a second snare will help out. Oh, thank you, MRA6. Glad you're enjoying. Oh, I almost screwed up. Glad you're enjoying things enough to drop that follow. I really do appreciate it. Now, I'd been meaning to ask, it seems like you're familiar with some of the terms, so I'm assuming that you're a player of the game, but have you recently gotten the game, or are you sort of an old hand at this and you're just watching me sort of stumble through my experience? Not sure this is exactly what I want to do with the Voiceless Dead, but I'll keep them around just because they do help with evidence if it comes to it. Let's spend money on... Obviously, I said I kind of wanted a new hint just to be able to keep an eye on the long, but if you're asking, oh yeah, definitely, you're pretty new. Well, that's good. Did you get it in the Humble Bundle by any chance? Because I know it was that's the new Humble Monthly. I guess it's technically not a Humble Bundle. It's a it is one of the early unlocks in the Humble Monthly, but yeah, I've had a great time with it. Obviously, I've played it for a very long time, but. There's still something new to find, and damn it! Well, that just makes things really complicated. I'm gonna put like exclusive mystique towards this and hope that I don't generate another fascination as a result. But yeah, I don't know, like I think the initial confusion I had with the game has definitely sort of been restored with this new Apostle Legacy. So if you're new to the game, or well, you said you're new to the game, this is basically New Game Plus. So you have all of this to look forward to once you complete your first ascension. But this is one of the things that's great about it too, because as they say, it's a living game. It's a complete game, but a living game. And so there's, every few months there's a nice little surprise waiting for us in terms of some new content to work with. Definitely a very deep game, a very interesting game, well written. And I just really love this experience of being able to share it with people, because I always feel, I know I've been talking a little bit less about how it sort of relates to life, and I think it's just because I sometimes get a little self-conscious telling the same anecdote over and over again, but it's a game I really like talking about and sharing with people. So don't have the Humble Bundle, but it caused a rise in popularity for the game that made you notice it. So indirectly, yes. Yeah. Well, it's also published by Humble. So I was kind of wondering, I sort of figured that it would wind up in the Humble Monthly. Maybe not a bundle, but I figured it would be in some kind of thing that they did. But obviously, if you're publishing a game, you still have an incentive, even though if their bread and butter are these, you know, sort of these combination things or the subscription services, clearly there's still quite a bit of money to be made directly selling games. This is one of the things that EA has encountered. So I was a little surprised. So I knew that Battlefield 5, which I really enjoyed, had not sold as well, but I thought what would be really interesting to me was how many Premier subscriptions they had sold, because I think that is basically the wave of the future TM. And they actually, you know, they reported, and the number of Premier subscriptions sold was also lower, directly tied to that game. So I thought that was a bit of a shame, because this is a case of a game which I thought was really well done, and the launch, for, you know, whatever reasons you want to say, or, you know, the launch trailer obviously did not land well with its audience. And let's be fair, like, it was a really dumb reason for at least some people. But the underlying game I thought was really good. But obviously, when they're reporting lower earnings, part of that is not just on lower subscriptions to their service, which is, of course, going to be revenue that they generate over time, but it's lower on the number of people actively buying the game. So with that in mind, I was a little curious about how Humble was going to handle that, because obviously they're known for putting games together in these good deals, but you don't want to do that right away with a brand new game, because number one, I'm sure the developer is not going to be crazy about the fact that it might eat into potential revenues for them. But number two, you want a return on your investment. So, but again, the business side of things is not as always exciting as playing. So we empty the luggage, upend the books, and shake them, turn pictures to check the backs. We find clothes, tickets, maps, nothing out of the ordinary, although there is a curious translucent material like a sheet of snakeskin draped over a chair back. At least when we slash the mattress to search its stuffing, we find a little collection of ivory scroll cases. So we've got a few tantras to read now. Good news there. You're so ready for ChalkCon. You'll all show up in matching outfits and shoes, and the Kool-Aid's going to be off the chain. I definitely, if we ever do a ChalkCon and it's cultist themed, I will unquestionably be showing up as Spencer Hobson. What's Flavor Aid? Beneath the surface of the lake, in some cliffside nook, perhaps some relics remain for us yet. Okay, so I'm going to be able to see whether or not the... so in this case it says an adequate snare. Rivals are cautious, they don't prowl the streets like hunters. To defeat one, we must prepare a trap and await our opportunity. So in this particular case, it seems like... the effectiveness wasn't changed and it didn't eat the other snare. There's some new item that some EA game wasn't as great as expected. Yeah, so basically what happened, a bunch of game... so this is an interesting... I did mention this on Twitter a little while ago for those of you who follow me there. So a bunch of game companies announced earnings, and, you know, people just love to hate EA, and so... I can't believe... Oh, great. Okay, so the Fleeting Reminiscence did get eaten up. I'm happy about that. But I do need to find a new subject for my painting now. I can't make it the snare, unfortunately. But yeah, so everybody loves to hate EA, and as a result, every time that EA does earnings or any time that the stock goes down, people are going to assign whatever cause to it. But as it is, on the investor call, they did say... Battlefield 5, which was their big release, it came out in November when Red Dead Redemption and Call of Duty 4, so pretty competitive month. You know, it underperformed expectations. And that was sort of I think that was probably the main reason for the price going down. The other thing that's interesting is Take-Two, which released Red Dead Redemption and did very well. They raised guidance, and their stock also went down about 12%. And that's because they didn't raise guidance high enough. People thought that they were going to be increasing the stock higher. And this is one of the really interesting things about this. Because, yeah, that's exactly what I talked about, MRA6. The big thing about this is that if you've ever wondered why, like, so there's obviously I've done econ, so this is, second nature, but for those of you who know about the relationship that when a central bank raises the interest rate, or the target rate, and as a result, interest rates increase, the expectation is that the currency underlying the country's currency, basically, or in the case of the euro, the currency underlying that interest rate, that should go up. And there's lots of different reasons that should, but that's a pretty clear theoretical result. And yet when you take a look at the actual performance of foreign exchange markets, they don't necessarily do that. And the easiest reason for that is that investors don't drive only using the rear view mirror. People make their bets on what the announcement is going to be, but they also make bets on what is going to happen in the future. And so if people anticipate that interest rates are not going to continue to rise, and that was the expectation before the announcement, it actually means that the foreign exchange rate will fall, even though there's some fundamental reason why that number should be going up. Basically, the market's expectations were met in terms of the interest rate rising, but they weren't met in terms of forward guidance. So that's why 2K had a very good quarter, but the stock price went down because they didn't raise their guidance as high as the analysts thought. And so in the end, the stream of profits that are going to be coming in, which is of course what your claim is on a stock, those are not going to be as high as what they thought they were. And then of course Activision's currently has got its problems in the form of losing Bungie and Destiny 2. So generally gaming stocks are going lower, but in the case of EA, there's a very direct reason in the sense that one of their major releases did not do as well as expected. But of course, quarter over quarter, year over year, they did extremely well. They had a loss last year. And essentially, if you erase the negative sign from that loss in the previous year, you got this quarter's earnings. So the company is doing reasonably well. It's just not doing as well as people had expected. And this is just sort of the end of a rather unfortunate tale in terms of players perhaps being a little too harsh in their criticism of Battlefield 5, in my opinion. Although people, of course, are allowed to like what they like, but. Anyways, Emery, I don't formally study this stuff. My background is both undergrad and in graduate school was in economics. But the thing is that like when you study economics, you never just read that one topic. So I am kind of interested in financial markets, and I'm particularly interested in terms of gaming. And I think one of the things is that I do a little bit of blogging. So the big thing for me is that I see a lot of really careless take. Like basically there's a genre on YouTube of like videos which show, especially if it's electronic arts, like it's usually got an EA logo on it. It's got like a line chart that's like crashing through a floor with a big red, arrow showing that it's going down. And then whoever's hosting the YouTube video has like this stupid expression on their face. And it's essentially some variation on, because I don't like EA, they made the wrong choice about their games, and as a result, they're failing, hashtag, get woke, go broke, or whatever, idiocy these guys are throwing out. And what this basically is it's the modern version of like sacrificing an animal and cutting it open and looking at the entrails and coming up with a story. Or like in China, they'd like take a turtle shell and they'd like poke it with a hot poker, and then they'd read the cracks, and that would, there's all sorts of different ways of reading the future, and absolutely none of it has anything to do with what's actually going on. Now in this case, you can actually say that Battlefield 5 did not do as well as before, so if you've got an axe to grind about Battlefield 5, there is at least some validity in terms of what's going on, but it's actually not the reason why the investors are doing what they're doing. And I tend to find there's a lot of very careless talk about quote unquote the industry and what's going on, because again, then you need to say, it's like, okay, well, if it's just Battlefield 5 that's causing EA to go down, why did Take-Two just get dumped? And to my view, because I have an interest in what goes on in the games industry, just a private interest. It's not like I work in it or anything like that. But because I find these things interesting, and because I try to, again, just it's in my nature to try and figure out what's going on, I always feel really bad when I see explanations like that gaining some currency, because it just means that people won't be looking for the things that are going on. So like the trends that I'm really interested in the games industry right now are what seems to be a shift towards a subscription service, because in that case EA seems very well positioned. Ubisoft seems to be making a move that way. Microsoft and Sony are already in there, and Humble Bundle, because of the Humble Monthly. I think these people make games and they have a steady stream of content with which people will be able to do a subscription service. Discord doesn't have that. Twitch is basically already getting out of their sort of game selling side of things. Cartridge doesn't make games. So these companies I actually think are going to have a harder time of it. Epic obviously does make games, and they're going in pretty hard with their Epic store. So they might be able to do well as well. But again, that we're not really able to see what's going on there. This is all sort of future speculation, and having an axe to grind about a particular game, like if you did or didn't like Anthem and you say that's why the stock went up or down, that explanation's only ever going to go so far. So you're dissing your woke goat entrails. Yeah. Anyway, sorry guys, I know that's not as directly related to Cultist Simulator, but it's something that's been on my mind recently. So beneath this, right, we got the cliffside nook and such, so we'll carry on. I think I'll let the hint expire, but maybe I'll throw the Pergusagant at it. No, we'll see what comes up actually. Okay, let's spend the money on the Colors of the Night, and we'll be wrapping up pretty soon. But I did spend a minute to monologue, so well, more than a minute. So we'll spend some time to see these things come through to the end. Okay, so we get another snare. It's still a level 2 snare. We still have Grunwald's Permanent Circus. So, could have something to do with the expeditions that I use on these things. At least I have another one, right? Is there anything else I could use the talk for? Well, we can get something from Jannings, so we'll start with that. I probably should have turned in and then got something from Jannings, but very much so. That's kind of my it's kind of just a known factor now, so I don't feel like super bad about it. But on the other hand, like I want to at least be conscious when I'm doing it. It's a little bit like meditation almost, right? As soon as you get distracted, you just acknowledge what happened and then you move on and you get a little bit better at keeping your focus. I don't meditate a lot, but I've been told that that's sort of how you're supposed to get better at it. But I also think we definitely learned playing Spinortality. Like, there are definitely some games that lend themselves more to those digressions anyway. And that just happens to be because the subjects come up. And in some cases, it's definitely it's more tangential than others. So obviously in the case of Weather Factory, the only thing I could really connect with there would be the fact that it's a game that's published by Humble, but I still think these things are interesting, and with any luck, it's I think if I'm digressing on things that people have already heard before, then that's really bad. But if it's something that doesn't get said a lot, then I sort of feel there's at least some kind of value to it. Okay, so Bundle of Mystique, which we had already. Not a lot of money. I mean, apparently it's considered significant, but that doesn't translate into the actual cash. curious if I can do something about the... Interesting. Actually, you know, I should do that because I've got a winter instrument. Huh. Okay. Well, I surely should be able to bring the hint back, though. Oh, that's really neat. I didn't realize that they left a chilly atmosphere. I do actually need to deal with that because it'll turn into dread, but... I've received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. So, erudition's always a little nice to get because it will allow me to upgrade those secret histories. In the meantime, very substantial edge, which we don't have, but we can presumably get. And then as far as talking, let's try... Well, in this case, let's have a chat with Alcaire, and we'll have a chat about snares again. Because I don't think there's anything else for me to do with talk, unless I want to try and make a move on Connie. But... Best parts are when Chalk feels it's necessary to monologue for 40 minutes to explain why he laughs at a win condition in a game involving max taxes. Yeah. Winter lore for days. Yeah, I mean, so I think this kind of gives a good example of the type of game that I like playing anyway, because it, so I tend not to do that sort of thing if the game is, see, now I'm struggling for a good example, but, in the case of like Battlefield 5, the conversations were usually after they're usually like after the session. Like it was something that we had the experience and then we moved on. There's really nothing else for me to do at the moment. And, Wolfenstein sometimes during the game, but it's not quite as assured, let's say. They are more cunning and more numerous than we'd expected. This will end in blood for us, so I'm going to lose one of my people. Oop, Daylight's Terrors. Our enemy is working to expose the secrets of our followers. If they can't find an unexposed follower, this will end quietly. So I did my best to avoid that, but turns out we were not strong enough. Do I want to keep the hint? I think I'm going to do so, because I'm going to start getting a little short on followers. Regrettably, I do not have the contentment to deal with this. Defend against exposure. I can try giving the public something else to think about. Use mystique to attempt a distraction, though it isn't always successful. It may generate notoriety. Well, we'll do our best. But yeah, like the, Mass Effect, Galva pointed out, it's... it's more appropriate. But yeah, it's more of a game thing. But it definitely, like I said, it doesn't indicate a type of game. Oof, that's a heavy loss. And unfortunate. Well, I still might be able to summon a maid in the mirror, but it's looking a little less likely. I will, however, get some contentment. So, oof, and another chilly atmosphere. Well. Benefit of the doubt, our reputation is no worse, but our enemy will focus their attention more intently on us for now. Okay, so I'm going to screenshot that. Oh, I can't screenshot that because oh no, I can print screen it though. I don't think that's working the way it's supposed to. more connections are a mortal enemy. Oh yeah. No, that's definitely a bug. So in this case, I got the extra notoriety as well as more connections. If you don't mind, I'm actually just going to take a quick second here and fire that off to Weather Factory because I forget otherwise. Let me just get the details on this. I know this is not exciting. I'll report exactly what I wrote in a second, but I'm learning I need to report these bugs a little bit. I need to start trying to do this a little bit more on stream because what happens is I make a note, but I never actually follow through on them. So, okay, put my little bug tag, long R2 merciless, like in a buggy way. Platform Windows version, I'll write that a little bit later. When the Expose the Secrets of Our Followers event triggers and Mystique is used, the event does generate the Benefit of the Doubt event, and that reports our reputation is no worse, but our enemy will focus their attention more intently on us now. It produces a notoriety in place of the Mystique, as well as a more connections card for the long. It seems like this text implies there should be no notoriety. Or maybe I'm just a big crybaby. Best, and then my name. And then I'm just going to park this for the ability to... I'm just going to park this for getting the version number. Okay. So I'm going to get some contentment in a minute, so I'll keep the dread free. I'd love to use the bitter atmosphere, but I can't. So we'll carry on. Uh-oh. The hint just broke free. I think I'm going to take the trembling heat this time. I don't think I can summon something with it, but I want to double check this. Alright, let's see what this starts eating. This is a great way, so everything's falling apart right at the end. My summoning has escaped my control, where it'll wreak havoc, no doubt. So let's carry on. Let's start by seeing if I can do anything with the icy atmosphere. So let's say this case, I'm actually going to make Eldridge the assistant. I don't think Chiliarch's lesson is enough. Oh yeah, wait a minute. That's too much. It's too much edge. So, I'm pretty sure I missed the boat on... summoning that Maid in the Mirror. So, let's say... Let's take a slightly different angle on this. Let's say that we take a chilly atmosphere. We'll throw Enid in here for now. Okay, so the winter... Yeah, actually, you know what? This winter's probably not going to be good enough. And I also need to be careful about the summoning the dead, because they don't actually just go away. They turn into these... they turn into these influence, so I'm not actually getting rid of the problem. I've increased my knowledge of one of the secret histories behind the one that we know. Okay, good news there. So let's start by properly dealing with the dread. Next up, so we'll say icy atmosphere. Are there any instruments for me to use? Well, it's got to be knock here. So my last options here would be Edge, Heart, or Forge. The only heart that I can bring up, this would be Voiceless Dead, which again turns into a chilly atmosphere. So that's not necessarily what I really want out of all of this. I'm pretty sure my Forge... Well... So yeah, this is the big dilemma. If this wasn't an intense or an influence, I'd probably be able to do something with it. Okay, actually, here's what I'm going to do. I need a follower, so let's say that Laidlaw is the individual, so then we'll give the... and then... yeah, probably not enough knock. Well, at the very least, we can delay the inevitable, so... Voiceless Dead it is. So the Edge should still be able to handle this, in my opinion. Oop! See ya, Practical Disciple. Oh yeah, I should still be using my my research. An adequate snare, my followers prepared, yep. So, still need to figure out how to... work these. Is there anything else I can do with the talk verb for now? Not really. So let's have a chat about mysteries. And then for study, let's keep going with the forbidden epics. They may not work, but I'm gonna be out of it for a little bit, so strength is matchless. Well, it was matchless last time too. Now I'm trying to remember how I got the Maid in the Mirror in the first place. But, this is intrigue, so I'm okay with this. Like, this combo is how we handle that. The thing you conjured returned to its own place. It will do you no more harm for now. So Looks like this is still not actually... So apparently they fixed this. Apparently these things are supposed to bite, but I don't think I've ever actually lost someone to one of these yet. I do sometimes, Galva, but because I've done that so many times, I tend to be a little bit more detailed in my notes now. The one problem I have, though, is if I'm like in the throes of research or something like that, I will tend to write notes to myself that are like really, like I'm jotting it down so fast so I can follow the train of thought that it's incomprehensible. It's incomprehensible to me later. That's a big problem for me sometimes, but that's a little bit different than. So yeah, we can only use contentment for that. Do I have? Oh, of course I have the Season of Despair coming up. Why would I get anything else? Okay, so let's try and head that off with our. I'm gonna use up all the Mystique. It's just because hopefully the notoriety will take care of itself. I'm gonna add the Dread for now. Oop. Also, let's go back through the Stag Door. Okay, more acquaintances are always good. Logistical difficulties. Oof. Should have been paying attention. Oh, Jesus. No, we're good. Wait a minute. Again, I must not have been paying attention properly. Oh no, this is probably from the long. At least we can use the Voiceless Dead to kill the evidence that they make, so. Unfortunately, they took the fresh one, so. Okay, in the meantime, I'm gonna keep the Voiceless Dead here just to kind of... This is mostly just a precautionary measure. What would have been smarter for me to do, so let's see whether or not I actually got any contentment out of that, would be to keep the dream slot open. I did not. Alright, well, that's that. I don't think I'm gonna risk... I don't think I'm gonna risk it again. Well, something else I can paint about? I guess the fleeting reminiscence. I'm just trying to generate contentment. I can do it through dream, but so the idea would have been if I'd been thinking the possibility of generating contentment, I should actually have the dream open and ready to take both. Oh, what was I thinking? I even knew that that was going to cause that. No, I don't think... Yeah, I think just Dread shows up with that. Okay, old and happy far off things. This is rapidly getting off the rails, but I will manage. Who did we get, though? Okay, just a hanger-on, so nothing too special. So first thing I want to do is consider, is there anything that I want to talk about right now? Is there anything that I want to do to try and bring people over? Or is there anything that I want to try and do with this talk verb before too long? Right now, talking with Dr. Adim is the only way that I can get more Spintrea, so I'm going to do that. There's also the possibility that I will be able to gobble up this fascination with the with a sort of a recruitment ritual, but I will figure that out a little bit later. I'm also gonna have to deal with a bunch of sickness really soon. So we've got Forlorn Blood now. We don't have a Season of Restlessness coming up. Okay, I can definitely do a lantern commission, that won't be a problem. So with the talk verb, I think the next step... I am okay going through the door again. No, I'm not, because I would have been able to... I would have actually been able to deal with the fascination because the fleeting reminiscence that would have come up again. I need to actually... I need to get better at being careful with the moves that I make. Oh yeah, no worries, Isaacson. I may be gone when you get back, but not because I'm outraged by your moves. Okay, so talking with people, I think I'm okay leaving the hanger-on around for now. The serpent struggles, the serpent rolls and roars, the death throes shake the earth. But it's dying, we'll pass. I think I'm gonna quickly do the speak of esoteric matters just to try and get another body in. We'll turn this restlessness into another painting. I've increased my knowledge with the secret. Oh, cool, that worked again. So we've actually got a few unresolved ambiguities, which is generally good news. So in this particular case, I think we'll try the Wood Whisperer again. It might trigger another old unhappy far off things, but you know, it is what it is, right? Okay, so Restlessness is going to go into painting. When this painting finishes, I will combine the Fleeting Reminiscence, which hopefully has enough time, 65 seconds, to last the dream. Okay, great news on the Contentment. I think I'm just going to pick it all up. And glimmering there. So these two will cancel each other out. Then I'll be able to heal up within the minute. And as far as work is concerned, let's just take we'll do the same trick. This time I'll just use a truckload of Mystique to come through it. So obviously part of this reflects me being a little more on the ball in terms of the mechanics of the game and making sure that things don't get out of hand like last time. And then I think I've also gotten a little bit luckier than the previous time. Also, I should remember to use my verbs to... There's the tentative evidence. I should also remember to use talk to generate another snare, because those things seem to expire pretty quickly, all things being equal. The chapel root. There are ruins beneath the water, just beneath, at wading depth. The lake has risen a little in all these years, but not enough to keep us out. Okay, so this should give me another Forbidden Epic. I'll be able to double those up. I forgot that my talk is going to be occupied for a bit longer than I thought, but let's start by getting rid of the Fascination right away, because Fascination is the real killer. I'm going to be generating some off of this Forlorn Blood. Well, once I sort of reinvigorate myself, and then the Long is pretty good at dishing out some of that. So it's another intrigue. Saliba's around, so he should be able to help delay it. Okay, so similar idea here. I'll just hit the collect all and sort it out later. And for work, it would be nice to be able to summon something, but I don't actually want to destroy any of the other items that I have right now. So unless I get some influences, that's not going to happen. Yeah, so in this case, I think probably Lantern is the right call here. Try and keep at least some kind of Spintrea flow. The chapel crypt is flooded and the water soupy with old corpse matter, but at least we bring up the wax-sealed coffer. 18th century? No, older than that. Let's see what's within. Okay, so it's going to be the percussivant hint combo for the next little while. Those indignities perpetrated by the deceitful fraternity of Obliviates. This book is as famous for its the near incoherent fury of its tone as for knowledge that it contains in Latin. We also have the Orchid Transfigurations, Volume 3, 16th century alchemical fever dream attributed to Robert Flood, recently banned for the disturbing allure of its illustrations. This is in the original Latin. And we gain witch-kissed oil. The formula remains unchanged since the days Hecate was worshipped at the crossways. And I'm sick. And I do need to worry about the Season of Suspicion coming up, so I think in this particular case, I think it makes a lot of sense. No, actually, you know what? Oh, damn it. Stop! I'm going to start the next expedition just to keep things clear in my mind. So, percussivant hint. So I'm learning to move away from the way that I normally end the stream. What I actually want to do is I want to future-proof myself. So in this case, I actually want to make sure that I get my plan for dealing with this evidence out of the way. And I know next week when I play this, assuming that I don't play it earlier, I always try to leave myself the option open, but it's been a particularly rough last month as far as doing extra things. If I start missing Elder Scrolls Tuesday episodes, it means that things are busy enough that some of my more regular events are being missed, unfortunately. Well, that's okay. That's self-explanatory. It means that things are busy enough that things that normally are like cannot be moved from the schedule are getting bumped, which I never feel good about, but it is sometimes these things happen. Okay, Forge or Knock. None of this is like this is all just really bad for me. But we'll carry on because the Enid Neville 1-2 punch should be enough. Okay, talk is good. Old unhappy is not. Tristan dislikes distractions. Tristan gets things done. So more mystique for my efforts. So in 16 seconds, a Season of Suspicion is going to pop up. If I use the Voiceless Dead right now, I can populate the tentative evidence. Even if they pull up a notoriety, they'll need the minute to run it by. So I'm good to go there. Okay, Composure's good. I'll paint away the restlessness that comes from this, but I do need to deal with my health. I don't think I have any vitality running around. No, I don't. So I'll paint away the restlessness, and then we'll call it for an evening. I realize the last few minutes have just been me describing exactly the moves that I'm doing. I suppose it's good for the visually impaired? I don't know. But it's usually an indication that I'm a little tired, so. I still need to wait the time. Yeah, we'll wait for the restlessness to generate. Okay. This is kind of happening as planned. We know that this heart was going to show up because I've got Forlorn Blood. Looks like the Season of Ambitions is coming up, and hopefully that means that we're getting blood, not a rival move. Okay, we're skilled in uncovering warded ways, but we'll probably penetrate this door, and we bring Neville in for the penetration. Called upon the Horned Axe, who waits the threshold. We bear great power of opening, will almost certainly shatter this warded door. Okay. So, in this case, I'll get the most that I can out of the... So these ones are expiring soon. So in this case, this is kind of their little last hurrah. We'll throw the restlessness in, because that's a good way to get rid of it. Although I should keep in mind that there are certain influences, and all those times where I'm like, oh, if only I had an influence, I'd be able to do this. Well, coming up with more creative uses of influences would probably stop me from saying that as often as I do, but I don't, so. Not until Sin gets back. You have to find out how she beat the snow monsters. Okay, I'll go for as long as I can manage, but that might only be for a couple more minutes. Man, I really blew this. Where'd my... I have like a scholarship token that apparently just vanished. Am I going crazy? Like, there is the... The erudition apparently is like... Oh, there we go. Sorry, the rarefied mind. I'm very lucky that they're wasting so much effort on these. So I think what I'm going to do here, as fun as it would be to go back into the Mantis, I think I'm just going to keep the sick room available while I deal with my blood. Okay, good news about the Voiceless Dead. If I can, I will add them to the expedition, but it's unlikely it'll work. All doors must open, as all lives must end. This door is found its end here today. Actually, here's what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to turn in the commission for Dr. Redeem, because that's only 5 seconds, and then I'm actually going to put the cycle through for the Voiceless Dead. Because there will be notoriety, there will be evidence, and I'll be able to get ready. Damn it! I think he's just going to straight up take one of my expeditions now. So let's see if we can head this off. I think I've blown the opportunity though. So we'll take Erudition Mystique. Let's get Alcine really quickly to survive before us. Daylight's terrors. Our enemy is working to expose the secrets of our followers. Oop. Okay, so we'll use Mystique, but my prediction here is that it'll actually turn into a notoriety anyway. Okay. Well, we're certainly not lacking for Mystique. Let's take our Affliction and pay money. Okay, so I'll put the Voiceless Dead in the Treasures lie before us now, because it won't be gone for that long, and on the chance that... well, no, I know evidence will be created through this. For 28 seconds, we still need to see what's going on with our rival. Again, I think it's very unlikely that I will successfully create a snare in time, but it's worth the attempt at this point. Not really any work that I can do at the moment, because I don't have any influence, and I don't have... I do kind of want to have as many bits of Mystique out as I can. Well, okay, we'll sit on the work for a little while. So in this case, we'll take the earliest to die Mystique. A distraction. Too many strangers have heard this follower's name already. If the distraction fails, we can keep trying. If it succeeds, it will generate notoriety. Okay, yeah, so you get multiple attempts, it looks like, but in this particular case, it's not gonna matter, but I am actually gonna push this ahead here. Are the long really long, or are they short and not long? Difficult to tell. This point, 10 seconds for the 10 seconds for the problem is definitely a short. Here's another who to send for me. Independent occult is a cautious scheme. Okay, so this is busy at the shadows. I can live with that. I still think, I mean, it's kind of a moot point here, because, you know, it's gonna generate notoriety no matter what. Although if we can run out the clock on, our reputation is no worse, but our enemy will focus their attention more intently on us now. Oh, okay, actually, maybe I'm not properly... Yeah, I don't know. The text for this is really uneven, because it suggests to me that this successfully distracted the matter, but obviously we get the notoriety as well as more connections for the long. So I feel a little uncertain submitting it as a bug report, but I think I'm pretty sure that this is not working the way it's supposed to. I could be wrong though. I was gonna do something with work. I know I said I was gonna leave it open, but for what? Unfortunately, I get my blood. Okay. Voiceless Dead's free. Icy atmosphere, not so good. Oh, the Warrior's End. Others have been here before us. Power still lingers, and no doubt they used it in their ceremonies. They have taken some of the Warrior King's funeral treasures, but left something of their own. Also, I forgot to read the text before that, so... It is almost possible to stand upright in this place, but the air is foul and our lamps burn low. Here is the Warrior King staked out on the funeral stone, his bones smashed to keep him from walking. The orbits of his skull are bound with bronze. Okay, so... Neville did a good job. Enid did a good job. Apparently spent too money, as we always do. Hint and Pergusagint is the dynamic duo. Bone Flute's good news, although I don't think as good as the... Yeah. We've got the Book of the Centipede. In the mid-1860s, one Madame Yi presented an entertainment based, she claimed, on this book. So this is in Grec. Meteoric Bullet. Now that will be particularly helpful for me due to my... Oh wait, nope, we already have level 4 lore. Well, nope, but it would still be helpful because I need to use the lore in some other cases, so... Piebald Pigment, don't really have much of a use for it right now, but from the crushed rings of rare Lepidopterans, painting black or painting white, this is the stuff that I'll see you right. And Grey Dawn Oil, the precise color of the hours when one cannot sleep. So let me just double check again. For our feast, we want the Nectar, the True Blood, and Lethe. So we don't actually have any of the things that we need. For the meantime, though, let's head to the Gwere Inn on a crumbling cliff above the Grey Sea. The Gwere Inn squats until the day the sea comes for it. It receives few guests, fewer since the owner closed his notorious library for visiting scholars. So the Pergusagint Hint pair rides again. We'll load them up with money. We can reserve rooms at the inn easily enough, but we can expect the locals, if they divine our intentions, to turn nasty. And if the library is still here, it will be well hidden. No, again, another one that I've not heard of. You're a font of of new things that I should be checking out, Galva. I guess that's another one that you recommend? A lot of the British stuff that I tend to watch is usually, it's usually things that are popular enough to cross over. So like Sherlock, for instance. I mean, I've always liked Arthur Conan Doyle, so that's not too surprising to me that, you know, that I like the adaptation of Sherlock. I mean, I've only seen like the first two or three seasons. Anyways, they have the one which is like the adaptation of the Final Problem, which I don't know, I liked it. But a lot of the obscure, like the most obscure stuff I've seen is like in the thick of it, and A Touch of Cloth, which is probably a little. It was. I laughed at it, but it's not. I think Charlie Brooker's done better stuff. So, all right, adding that to the list. All right, courier has arrived with blood from our delight, with a single vial of their most holy blood. So in this one, I'm obviously risking the fascination, but I kind of need to deal with the forlorn blood right away. So consume a little vial of the blood, lie back, close my eyes. Tomorrow I will be stronger. And then working wise, I got nothing. That'll tide me over for now. I don't have any fleeting reminiscences, unfortunately, and I don't think I'll be getting any anytime soon. Well, I guess from the Dread, but I need to be careful about the icy... Ooh, I totally forgot about the icy atmosphere, so what can we do about that? I believe Galva specifically requested that I extend the time to make sure that you were sufficiently informed about, or that we were sufficiently informed about your battle with the snow. So I'm pretty sure I don't get away doing this. But now that I have the Meteoric Bullet, nope, this is just as good as Chiliarch's Lesson. Well, let's see. Yeah, it's just not enough. Another voiceless dead it is. You fell, but the snow is soft, so it didn't hurt. It was just comedic and fluffy, and it made a poof sound. I would have liked to see that, to be honest. I'm sure it would have been mildly traumatizing for you, but expedition continues. In this case, we'll put the voiceless dead in right away because... So my reasoning is this. I'm going to get a voiceless dead from the summoning. They're still chewing up Mystique, so I don't have a lot to fear from that. And it basically means I'm going to be able to preserve a creature for a bit longer. Now, eventually I'm going to have to deal with the warded door, but that's a tomorrow problem. An adequate stare, my followers prepared a stratagem which, with considerable luck, might defeat a rival's plans. Yeah, so there's something I got to do to improve snares, but I've not quite been able to be smart enough about it. Now what do I want to do with that talk verb? This may be dangerous, but let's speak of esoteric matters. I say this because it's likely the notoriety will be... Okay, well, we survived, so... Oh, Course of the Heart. I thought I had another disease coming up, but good news there. My rival has been up to some kind of mischief. The Suppression Bureau may take note, so more Mystique, but they don't seem to be any further along their journey, so good news there. Connie Lee's currently occupied investigating me. Fascination will be a bit of a problem, but not for too long, I hope. And we might as well go through the stag door again because there's no point. I really should have taken a look at what that item was. So yeah, I'm going to try and bring another follower in before too long. Once we're done researching this. Okay, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm so bad at this because this is how I wind up like playing something until 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to wait until this research is done, and then we're well and truly finishing it. So, and thank you. I did read your outline on IMDb, Galb. I just didn't do so outline, but it is definitely, if I get a chance to look at it, I will. I'm not 100% sure how I can access British shows, but I will make a genuine effort because I actually do like it when people recommend movie stuff that I like. Better than words, just listen to a bit of the theme music. Okay, I'll add that. I've got like 8 tabs open now for this from the stream. Yeah, I quite. It's on Netflix. Okay, I don't actually have Netflix, but there's enough stuff that people are recommending on Netflix that I might. Yeah. But I mean, there's enough stuff that people are recommending that I might give it a shot. So research has possibilities when research. Yeah, so this will be done in a couple of seconds. Our strength is matchless. Swatches will almost certainly regret stranding against us. Saliba's back in from the night. And we are prepping the action, so we'll see what happens. I guess now is a good time for me to bring Eden in for. Okay, so new Voiceless Dead, more kind of a precautionary Voiceless Dead more than anything. We have upgraded the lore of the wood, which we will. Obviously, I will continue to move on upgrading it, but right now I actually have real books that I can read. All of them do need to be translated though, so let's set up our translation shop. And then work. I don't think I have anything exciting to do with work right now. I'm going to desperately try to avoid dread, which I think I can do. So now seems like a good time to pack it in. We are well on our way on our expeditions. I've sort of future-proofed myself. The only thing I might want to consider is Voiceless Dead and Talk because of the evidence, but even then in 5 seconds it's going to gobble up the notoriety. So I believe, nope, 6.7 seconds. So it's possible I'll be a moron and, oh no, because this will take over. Yeah, so this will pull up a card. It's almost certainly going to, yeah, I'm almost certainly going to notice it, and if I don't, that's totally on me. So with all that in mind, this was definitely a calmer experience. I'm just going to get my version news. 2019.2.A.1. I've sent my bug report off to the lovely people at Weather Factory. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I always get very nice feedback from people about these streams, which makes me feel good, and I obviously will feel much better if people are, are entertained rather than, just tolerating me. I do want to take a minute. I didn't actually properly shout out Johnny Big Time earlier, so, or maybe I did and I just didn't notice it in my proper chat here thing. But anyways, Johnny did come in, and again, I know Cultist Simulator is not normally his type of game, but I really means a lot to have regulars come in, and even if it's a game that's not normally their sort of thing, to see that level of support it does help me a lot, because obviously, as I tweeted, I've not been feeling great. It is specifically with the payment stuff. It's just very exhausting to have to deal with that, and to deal with a situation where it's very clear that they know what they are doing, and they know that they are not, like, it's to a point they're very transparently lying, and both sides sort of know that it's not true. And it's one of these ones where it winds up being a big drain. It feels like a total drag. So I try to stream through that sort of stuff because it, you know, if I waited until I felt 100% to do a stream, then I would probably stream like once every 4 months. This is my best stream. Oh, well, thank you, Tall Man Alive. But yeah, I'll definitely say, like, obviously getting some hosts from some big people and having, like, you know, a lot of bodies inside here to share in it. But again, most importantly too, to have people who, you know, I get a chance to see regular folks, and you are interested enough in my interests to recommend other games or recommend TV shows, or, you know, be able to have little inside references. There's some times when, like, I've had inside jokes with chatters, and some of those inside jokes don't apply anymore. Because the people who were there for them don't visit the channel anymore. And that's fine. That's the way things need to be. It's like, you know, there's only so many, you know, in your lifetime you'll have friendships, and nobody wants to end a friendship, but sometimes they go by. And in the best cases, it's just, you know, time or distance make it untenable. In the worst cases, there's some event or somebody makes a decision and something regrettable happens. So I never think poorly on the fact that people don't come around anymore, but the fact that we've sort of gotten back to a point where you guys sort of have your own inside jokes, your own references and such, really does actually mean quite a bit, and it makes me feel a lot better. And it's one of the reasons why I continue to push forward even when I don't feel 100% on certain streams. And it's because you guys do a very good job of sort of pulling me out of the funk. So even though this thing takes up a lot of time, even though I know there are other things I could do with it, I am particularly grateful on nights that you make me feel like I'm not completely wasting my time doing it. So, anyways, more and more people coming. Yeah, so I do actually owe your lovely ex for that, because Octavian is hosting me right now. But I do appreciate you folks sticking around. So, and yeah, maybe it is the fact that it's called a simulator. I definitely benefit from the fact that when this game gets sort of a new batch of interest, it really does help. So let me just say a quick thank you. It's going to be a very quick thank you because it's a long list, and Twitch kind of shuffles it every like 30 or 20 seconds or something like that. So we've got Amber Ray, Kite260, Ottawa Streamers, Octavian Zero, Inferno Fowler, Yorkshire Bastard, Freighter 5, Malicide, Custom Games, Kaylee Cakes, Lumpy Space 88, Vanguard Master, Chaotic Tabris, Holster Fight. Oh, I missed it. Okay, once again. Ottawa Streamers, Yorkshire Bastard, Freighter 5, Amber Ray, Custom Games, Kaylee Cakes, Malicide, Maka Ang Zero, Octavian Zero, Chaotic Tabris, Vanguard Master, Lumpy Space 88, Nubasaur 42, Ulster Fighter, Kite260, Sleepbringer, Sir Tristan Live, Unknown Brigade, damn it, it went again, bottom to top, Starbright Knight, Flofi, The Sleepbringer, Johnny Big Time, Ulster Fighter, Unknown Brigade, Sir Tristan Live, Nubasaur 42, Yorkshire Bastard, Kite260, Maka Ang Zero, Malicide, Lumpy Space 88, Chaotic Tabris, Octavian Zero, Vanguard Master, Custom Games, Amber Ray, Inferno Fowler, Kaylee Cakes. It switched again. I'm sorry. I know I must have gotten through all of them at least once. I apologize. This is the worst possible way to do hosting. But anybody who has their own Twitch channel knows the raid and host screen shifts position in a matter of seconds. So anyways, you are lovely. Thank you for making this worth doing. I am over time, and I need to finish. We've got a lot of people online who are actually really good. But I think because Eyes of Sin mentioned it before, I know Galva is gonna get Galva's gonna get mad if I host W Shand again. So what I'm gonna do here, I'll host Elegy. So we've hosted him a couple of times, and he's always been very nice at at mentioning me when I come in. So if you want, you can do We're Tired of System Talk, heard this place was better. A game pretty old, sort of Lobotomy Corporation. Yeah, somebody else has recommended Lobotomy Corporation before as well, so it's one that's on my radar. I should actually follow up on that again. Thank you for that recommendation, Bormoth. Yeah, especially the fact when stuff gets recommended more than once, that's a good signal for me, and it's one that I actually forgot somebody had mentioned before, so I should take a look at the Steam sale and see what it costs like right now. But yeah, let's all pay Elegy a very nice welcome. And again, I'll see you all on Friday. I don't know if it's going to be Spinortality or Mass Effect or possibly a surprise. But as always, if you want to know what I'm up to, I'll mention it on Twitter. And if I don't mention it on Twitter, it's because I want to surprise you. So have a lovely evening, and we'll see you next time.